group. Leslie, can I ask what agency you're with? Somebody write that down.
I'm with the city of Sherwood.
Sherwood, thank you so much. And your role?
I'm the finance manager.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate it. Let me see who else here. Mira, can I ask what agency in your role?
King City.
King City. And your role is?
Yes. Finance manager.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining. Is it Lali or Layli? My apologies if I mispronounce. All right. Layli, if you're talking, we can't hear you. You're muted. I was just asking what agency you're with and what your role is. Okay. Maybe I can check in here in a minute. And Jennifer, can I ask what agency in your role?
I'm also with the city of Sherwood. I'm the accountant there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay. All right, I think, and we have Tatiana from Ontario representing Ontario. Amy, you're representing King City. Or no,
Yes,
Mira is. Mira is. Okay.
right. Yeah, and then I'm just here as backup.
Do
for
we
King City.
have Wood Village? We have Becky. Okay, Becky. We have Fairview.
And Kelly,
Lowell.
this is Tatiana. I wanted to let you know that Carrie Ott is on the call as well. She's our finance director.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. What's the other? Who am I missing? Lowell? Is Samantha Lowell?
Yes.
Samantha, you representing Lowell then? For the training today?
She might be in chat.
I don't know. Stacy can help me with the chat because I'm
Okay.
not going to be able to go back and forth.
Layli and I are here.
Oh,
so.
excellent. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. We got your chat. Thanks. Appreciate that. Okay. Just really want to make sure that we have all the agencies represented today in one shape or form. Forgive me. Given this is a pretty important meeting, this is the advanced financial section. We'll be working together today for about 2 hours. You should be able to see the agenda on your screen here in our training outline for implementing new agencies. These are the things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking a lot more in depth about your financial process. And Krista and Stacy, the other project managers, are also on the line. Stacy's going to be helping manage chat, and Krista will be helping with some notes if we need to record anything specific for any of you, on our end. So I just want you to know they're also on the line. My name, because I haven't worked with several of you, my name's Kelly Marshall. I'm the lead project manager for the e-permitting team. I am the finance content expert on our team, the money person, so to speak. And so I'll be doing the training today. My background is City of Salem as permit services supervisor, formerly before coming to building codes. And I've formerly been in management mostly until here, but working with the money and budgeting and reconciliation and that kind of thing is kind of my expertise. So we'll be talking a lot about that today. Like you see here in the list, asking the agency what your financial process is. I'll be doing that here in just a minute, which is why I wanted to make sure all 6 agencies were represented. We'll be talking about how to manage changes in valuation because the fees will automatically recalculate. You need to be well aware of how to reapply paid monies and then the surcharge considerations because that will impact your monthly surcharge reporting. Making other fee changes, voiding things to credit, how that will flow through on reporting to finance. Again, surcharge, reapplying paid monies. Some of the audit options that are available to you on some of the fiscal notes, there's an assess fee history tab on every record, and there's a payment history tab on every record. So we'll be looking at those and kind of what they have to offer. We'll be talking about exceptional payment types. These are non-cash transactions. They allow you to transact something. What we did is we stole the payment functionality. And in e-permitting, aside from Acela doesn't offer a lot of financial transaction functionality, unfortunately, in the software out of the box. So these exceptional payment methods like credit memo and fee waiver allow you to transact non-cash transactions to accommodate certain things that you need to get done regarding fees and payments. So we'll be talking about those briefly. The option of a financial batch file. We will be sending a financial batch file to all 6 of your agencies. There was a submittal form provided that allows you to decide what data elements you need included in that financial batch file, what data you need included. The hope is with the financial batch file that you can upload it and map it to your financial systems, your software. Not all agencies have the ability to upload. A lot of them do, like Springbrook. I'm not sure what financial system. We'll be talking to you about what financial systems each of you are using. But it does provide you with the raw data. So either that data will be uploaded and used, kind of directly system to system, or somebody will be, in finance will be using that data to input into your system, into your financial system for reporting. How to reconcile, the importance of reconciling accounts at the account code level, how to manage your revenue and pass-through fees, things that aren't revenue. Your fees are currently being configured for all 6 agencies. Every fee has to have an account code or general ledger account associated to it for reporting purposes. Those account code assignments vary wildly depending on the purpose or the intent of the fee. For example, some of you have school construction excise tax. There is a percentage of the excise tax that is retained as an admin fee. You're allowed to retain a portion of what's collected, and the balance is passed through and sent to the school district, but you get to retain a portion of it as revenue, up to 4%. For instance, those are 2 separate fee line items, the schools portion and your admin portion. The schools portion would likely have an account code or general ledger attached to it that is about pass-through fees. It's non-revenue. The admin portion would have a revenue-based general ledger account, however you're managing that. But just to point out some of those distinctions in the fees, where some fees that we're configuring on behalf of your cities are not revenue bearing. They're not revenue to your agency directly. So however you elect to maybe separate those out or make them distinct in terms of reporting will be important for what general ledger accounts you decide to attach to those. So we'll be talking about reconciling accounts in pretty good detail. We'll talk about cash balancing, cash being cash checks, credit cards, the deposit level, money or payment types. We'll be talking about how to balance, and then we'll be briefly talking about refunds.
You have a comment.
I won't be stepping through refunds in a lot of great detail because what we have learned over my 11 years with the team is that yes, we'll send that Fairview team. This is in the training outline, so we'll send this section in an email just so you have reference for that, for sure, not a problem. Okay, sorry, go back to my screen here. Boop, there we are. Had to move screens for a minute to read the comment. But I will talk about kind of the high level pieces, the real important kind of foundation of refunds and processing refunds in the software. But again, I won't step through processing a refund. And the reason that is that, like I was saying, we've learned that every refund in some way is somehow different, or they vary greatly. It depends on why you're refunding, how much you're refunding, if any work was already completed, if you assess a refund processing fee on refunds. There's just so many pieces. If it's an overpayment refund versus a fee void refund, they come from all different kind of directions. And so refunds, again, I'll I'll train on high level, but there's a lot of detail to happen with refunds, so we will make ourselves very available for processing refunds as you get started on the system upon your go live. Will be available to you, like immediately available to you to help process any refunds, so you can start getting some of that detailed case by case training under your belt. Seth, for those passed through to other agencies like the state excise, is the card processing fee paid by us or the agency that receives the revenue? It's paid by you. In short, Seth, any payment you process as an agency, you pay the credit card processing fee if it's paid by credit card. However, our training is very clear that we do not recommend that you take credit card payments on fees that are passed through. We do not recommend that you allow credit card payments on school excise tax, on Metro excise tax, where you pass through that money to Metro, the 95.5, or the school excise, regardless of the breakdown, because what ends up happening is that your admin portion ends up getting eaten up by credit card processing fees. And essentially, you don't gain any revenue from administrating the payment collection process on behalf of that external agency, the school district or Metro. We also don't recommend you take credit card payments on SDCs because the credit card processing fee would be egregious, right? SDCs tend to be very high fees. On a new home, for instance, upwards of 20K. If you're allowing a credit card payment on that, you're paying an average of 3%, right? So I don't want to get too far down the rabbit trail on that, but we do not train, we do not recommend, or we train that we do not recommend that pass-through fees are invoiced to allow credit card payments. Was there another comment? Sorry. Okay, I want to make sure I'm staying on top of that. All right. Thank you. Stacy has sent out the outline here on advanced money. I'm going to go ahead and open. Didn't have it open yet. I'm going to go ahead and open our test agency. Just switch my screen. Right? I don't see the red outline.
It says you're sharing your
I'm going to
screen.
stop sharing for a minute and I'm going to reshare again, just different.
And now it's red.
I'm logging into our test agency. Sorry, looking at this really quick. So first and foremost, let's talk about, I'm gonna open the team meeting again here. Can I ask King City first what your general financial process is? In other words, first is, do permit techs actually receipt the payments at King City?
Yes, the contractor come in to pay all the fees, the permit fee, all the pass-through fee, the tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the permit tech does the cashiering, or the planner, or the public works front counter person. Your staff in the individual work groups, they do their own cashiering. Is that correct?
Repeat that again.
So like planning staff, public works staff, building permit staff, they do all of their own payment processing. Is that correct?
Not really, because we only have one reception counter. When people come pay, the lady will take the payment, put in the system. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
is that person a finance employee or is that person like a building employee?
oh, okay. It's just a receptionist. Well, anybody can make the payment, take the payment. Yeah, anyone can take the payment, but they just need to put in the system. We use express bill pay. Just give out the receipt, print out the receipt.
Okay. Sorry, we're taking some notes on that.
Okay.
All right. So building staff, for instance, are not cashiering the permit fee payments. It sounds like you have some sort of separate cashier that is not in the building department that is receiving payments.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
correct.
so we
But
need to make
everything
sure.
we,
Oh, sorry, go ahead,
yeah.
please.
So we have we already in the express bill pay system, we have all the different code for like building plumbing permit, electrical permit, surcharge, SDC. We have different code, so they just find that and then key in the number, the amount, and then
Okay.
generate a receipt, bring out the receipt. Yeah.
So I imagine there's going to have to be a dual entry process. It sounds like you're entering payments directly into Express Bill Pay, but you'll also have to enter payments into the Acela system to receipt payment. Now, we have another agency that uses Express Bill Pay. It's, I believe, City of Crestwell, and they have to do dual entry. They receipt a payment to Express
Oh.
Bill Pay, and they receipt the payment also into the Acela system. But I'm gonna challenge you to just consider for a moment that you might be able to enter the payment directly to Acela, which is going to provide you with the data to input into Express Bill Pay.
Okay.
That
Ooh, no.
that might be an opportunity. I am, I just want to kind of talk out loud about that. And for all of you, if you are entering payments kind of more at a general cashier level directly into your financial system, you will also need to dual enter the payments into Acela. And I think we might have one other agency, I believe, spoke up yesterday and said that a cashier does their receipting. The permit tech preps the bill, adds the fees, invoices the fees, but then the customer leaves and goes and pays at the finance cashier office. So I need to kind of really start that conversation with you as finance folks and management that the system does require that a payment be recorded. And so the system will dump out every night through an automated process a batch file of that payment data. And that payment data can be used to data enter into systems like Express Bill Pay or any other financial system for recording. Or you can do dual entry. You can enter the payment into Express Bill Pay or whatever your external finance system is. Lolly, I'll answer your question in just 1 minute. And then also must record that it's been paid in Acela and include the payment details for reconciliation purposes. Yes, Lolly. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
It's Laylee. Can you hear me?
Laylee, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me
So,
know.
yeah, oh, no worries. So I'm with Lowell, and Lowell also uses Express Bill Pay.
Okay.
But Express Bill Pay is really just a third-party vendor that takes credit card payments and
Okay.
integrates with our financial reporting software. So
Excellent. Thank
if
you.
I'm understanding what happens, we're going to record payments. Let's say we take a credit card payment in the building permit software.
Yeah.
That's going to create a batch file at the end of the day. Your Grover or whatever it's called through US Bank is going to process that credit card payment, and you can either generate a batch file to import it into your financial reporting software or manually enter that data yourself. But you don't want to process that payment twice and charge the customer twice. Which if you entered into Express Bill Pay as a credit card payment, for example, you would essentially be double dipping on that person for a permit fee.
Yes, you have nailed it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't know what
So,
Express Bill Pay was, so thank you for
right.
sharing that because
Express Bill
that's
Pay is literally like Grover or whatever it is you guys call that software you're using to process
Converge. It's
credit
called
card
Converge.
payments.
Yeah.
Converge, whatever. I couldn't remember what it was.
No worries, no
So
worries.
Convert Grover. That's all I could think of.
Sounds the same.
But anyway, yeah. So anyway, if I'm understanding correctly, so if, for example, somebody pays, so credit card payments are obviously going to be processed through your US bank people
Yes.
and cash payments. So cash payments would also need to be processed through the Acela platform. And I'm assuming that cash payments would then also be part of that download,
Yes.
that batch report that you get
Cash
at
and
the end
check.
of the day.
Yep.
Okay. So all payments, cash payments handled in one manner, credit card payments handled in another manner, they would all be able to either A, be uploaded via that batch load process, or you can take that report and manually enter them before you complete your deposit.
100%.
Thank you.
100%. You have nailed it. And thank you for summarizing. I appreciate that so much because you have a lot of the missing information that I don't have, which is Express Bill Pay is actually a processing agent. It's not a financial
It is.
software.
It is.
And yes,
Right.
you would be double charging if you were entering a
Yes.
payment into Express Bill Pay and into Acela. Yes, indeed.
We don't want
you
to
would.
do that. You don't ever
Correct.
want to do that. If you're
Correct.
processing, if all payments need to go through Acela, then all payments need to go through Acela, and you pick and choose the best method for you to get that data into your financial reporting software.
Very much. You have just really
Okay.
nailed it. Thank you, Laylee. I
Oh,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
no worries. I just wanted to
That's been
clarify
a great
because
help. You're
that would
connecting
cause
the
a huge
dots.
problem.
Yeah, you're connecting the dots for sure. I have some
Okay.
chats related to our conversation. So Seth says to follow up on that, can we split out which charge line items from the permit can be paid through Acela and which can be paid through other means, online or in person? Seth, no, there is not a breakdown in that way. Fees are assessed on records in the software. You associate an account code to each individual fee line item. As the fees are assessed in the software, and then payments posted and applied in the software. Of course, applied is a key word we'll be talking about. I can make a payment and not apply it to anything, so it will appear as an unapplied credit. I can make a payment and apply it to fees. I can apply it to fees in full or apply it to fees partial. The customer doesn't get to apply fees in partial. They can pay in full or not pay. Period. That's their choice on their end. They don't get to choose to partial pay. They don't get to cherry pick which fees they're going to pay. They have to pay the invoice in full or not pay at all. But on the back office side, where staff are processing payments, you have a lot more functionality available to you. But no, we cannot split out what's paid through Acela and what's paid through other means. You're either paying the fee, you have to record a payment in Acela, whether the payment is just a recording of you processing the payment outside of Acela, or the payment is being processed directly through Acela. So we can't split out the online or the types of fees. And on Becky's question, no, anything invoiced through Acela is available to be paid online. It can be paid until it's invoiced. Correct. Becky's 100% right in her answer, her sharing of information there as well, is that any fee that is not yet invoiced is not available to be paid, and not available to be paid in any method, not available to be paid by check, by cash, or by credit card. But the minute you invoice fees, they are available to be paid, and not only available to be paid by staff processing payments over the counter, for instance, but they're also available to be paid by credit card online. There's a pay link that will appear upon fees being invoiced. So when I talked about school excise, for instance, as a pass-through fee, why in the world would you pay a credit card processing fee on a pass-through fee that isn't revenue? I said, don't accept credit cards. That would be my best practice recommendation, is not to accept credit card payments on school CET. The way to do that is to withhold invoicing, to ask for payment. And there's a report that you can print that includes fees that are needing to be paid but aren't invoiced yet. You can collect payment or ask for payment, forgive me, by check or by cash, by city policy, for example. I would recommend you consider looking at a lot of your fiscal policies as you implement the software. Because you might want to implement a policy that says legitimately, we do not accept credit card payments for fees that are pass-through fees for our agency. Those include metro excise tax, school excise tax, and you might want to include other fees that you want to accept credit card payments on, like SDCs, because of how high an amount that they are. Why would you want to pay 3% on 20K kind of example, right? So Becky's
So
exactly right.
here,
Oh, sorry, Seth,
here's
go
a
ahead.
here's a question. So, if we wanted to choose to not accept any payments through Acela, we could do that.
Unfortunately,
We would
no.
just, well, you just said
No.
we can withhold it. We can withhold invoicing.
You can withhold invoicing until to prevent credit card payment. But at some point, those fees have to be paid. Cash or
No,
check or credit
I
card.
understand. I understand that, but if it's what you were saying with the state excise taxes, if we don't invoice them through the system and make them pay, have them pay in person, then we just pass the information back, but we don't actually run the state excise and the metro tax through the payment processor by Acela.
Actually you do, but you withhold invoicing on them, and when you receive the cash or check payment, you receipt the payment in Acela.
So that's what I'm wondering is why couldn't we just make them, the policy be you have to pay by check or cash for all of the permit and none of it goes through Acela?
Well, Acela isn't just about credit card payments. Acela is a a total payment processing option, right? So when you sign the IGA to participate in e-permitting, all of the online permits that are offered, the baseline permit offering, which is the trade permits that auto issue, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, common res except for mechanical, and I think that's it. All of those auto issue online. You have to accept credit card payments for those. That is part of the IGA that you signed as participating in the software.
Is that credit card payments through Acela?
Through Converge as Acela's payment processor.
But that doesn't apply to the state excise. So the question is, what parts of that don't apply?
I'm having a hard time following. I think, Seth, how about I do an example? I think that will be good for us to, maybe I can demonstrate.
Because you're saying that if we change our financial policies to not accept credit cards for those things that have excise taxes, is it just excise taxes that are exempted from having to be processed through Acela, or what? I don't understand what the limitation is on what you can have to do through Acela and what you don't have to do.
So when I say considering about your financial policy for saying that you don't accept credit cards, is not that you wouldn't process them still through Acela, but that you would only accept cash or check payment in Acela for those. Because why would you pay a credit card processing fee on pass-through monies, right? Like the school district. Why would you pay the credit card processing fee on a $5,000 school excise tax? But you would still process the payment in Acela. You would just only accept cash or check.
And that's the question we've asked is why would we pay that through Acela when we have other online payment options that don't have the same requirements?
So
because it sounds like the system can accommodate that.
Well, no matter where you take your credit card, you're paying a credit card processing fee.
Period. No, we're not.
I understand that.
You're not paying a credit card processing fee?
We are not. We use a third-party service and they charge the fee directly to the customer. We do not pay any monthly fees or anything.
Okay. I see. Can I ask who you're with? Sorry, I'm on this screen.
This is Wood Village.
Wood Village. Okay. So over the counter.
Same here, King City. King City is saying we don't pay the credit card fee. Express bill pay pass to customer pay for it.
Okay. So for your over-the-counter transactions, the non-online transactions, for your over-the-counter credit card processing, you can continue to process credit cards through your existing setup. But you have to still record the payment in Acela as a dual. It'll have to be dual entry at that point.
So could we have them pay through our third party credit card processor and dual entry it back into Acela? That's the question.
You could. On that
For everything.
point, yes, absolutely you can, Seth. Sorry, I was not
Great.
making the connection.
No, that's great.
Yes, you absolutely could do that. So the school excise tax, I'm just going to throw in, an example here where when you assess the school excise tax, let's say it's a 2,500 square foot home, I submit that fee. I want to show you how the system does these fees. You can see them right here. This is our fake city called Omega. So the school port, it breaks it out into the percentages that you've negotiated in your IGAs with the school district. In this example, we're at 96.4. The school gets 96% of the collected fee, which is in this example, $2,500 was the total school excise fee by calculation. Based on the rates that are in our sample system here, it assessed 96%. Did it? I don't know if I'm doing bad math here, but let's just say 96%, and then it assessed the 4%. It breaks the fees into two parts, and it does that because this part is revenue. This part is pass-through. They would be, generally speaking, these would be separate account codes for reporting purposes. So if I were to invoice these to take, say you took the payment, you would always invoice these separately. I can tell you that much. You would invoice these standalone together. Once you invoice them, this invoice 1347. But once they're invoiced, I need to tell you, they're available to be paid in Acela online. So you do not want to invoice them until you've received the payment in Express Bill Pay or whatever your external credit card processing system is. And then to record the payment in Acela, it will look different. When you're recording a payment that was processed outside of Acela, I initiate the payment, I record it strictly as a journal entry. I can include the payer information, the real payer, whomever the real payer was. Let's say it was this guy that paid with his credit card. Oops, boop, boop. And as for trading for a journal entry is one of our exceptional payment methods. We're kind of really jumping ahead here in our training, but a journal entry is a non-cash payment method. It's exempted from the cash balancing reports in Acela because all it represents is that you're showing that a payment was taken in a system outside of Acela. It was processed elsewhere, for example, through Express Bill Pay. So I would dual enter that school CET payment. I'd process it through Express Bill Pay, take your credit card, and then I'd come into Acela and I would process it then instead as a journal entry, which is exempted from nightly cash balancing because the payment's going to be balanced instead through Express Bill Pay, not through Acela. In Acela, all I'm doing is telling the software that I got a payment. In the comment field on journal entries, it is our recommendation that you record the payment method, the authorization. You get an authorization number, typically some sort of receipt number, something to tie it to Express Bill Pay, just for reconciliation purposes, so that you can show, so if I'm looking back on this record in a fiscal audit a year from now, and the city's being audited, I can look at this journal entry payment and I can tie it to a payment in Express Bill Pay. The journal entry payment method is exempted from cash balancing. That's the key. It is used only to record that a payment was receipted somewhere else outside of the software. So through Express Bill Pay or through some other external method. Does
So I
that
have a
help
question
answer?
again.
Yeah.
that just generated a question for me. Being exempted from the cash balancing, which I understand, it would not be part of that batch report that you could then import into an external system. But is there a way to get a report, a daily report, a weekly report, a monthly report that shows all of those exceptional payments you've received so that you can go back and tie them to your financial reporting software if that's how you choose to do it?
Absolutely. There's a report in our cashier reports called revenue exceptions.
Okay.
And you can
Would
run
just
this
show,
report. I mean, I
okay.
just took one, so let's go ahead and,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Didn't complete it.
Can
I
we
didn't
run it
complete
and
it?
see what it says?
Yeah, hold on a second. Chris is telling me I didn't finish my payment. So oh, I didn't. Okay, so let me save my payment here. I get a receipt. Just a side note. I mean, you do get, the system does generate a receipt report, even on a journal entry, but it will say that it's a journal entry. So let me generate the receipt real quick, just so you could see that. Says that the payment method's a journal entry. It includes the payment details down here, and it shows what fees, well, so sorry. In my example, I didn't realize there were some other fees on this record. So, you know, let's just fake it till we make it here. You get the idea. I'm recording that I took a payment outside of Acela, whether I paid school excise or I paid other fees, regardless. So I have the receipt. I have the ability to email the receipt to anybody attached to the record. This test record did not have any email people attached. That's not common. But remember, we're just dealing with our test data here. And I can email the receipt out. Just a side note, I can also print it. So there's that. And it automatically saves the receipt to the documents tab on the record. So I immediately have, you know, an automatic document history of all payments and invoices as generated. Now the report. So I go into the revenue exceptions report because this is going to be really important for a lot of you, it sounds like. I'm going to run the report for just the 17th through the 18th through today. I do want it to show the details, and I do want to see it for all departments. I do recommend you just do all. Oopsie, so sorry, I clicked it off there. So the revenue exceptions report will group by the exceptional payment method. There are many. There's not just journal entry. There are others. For instance, like credit memo and fee waiver. Those are a way to pay down an outstanding fee balance when you're giving a discount based on some sort of policy. So there are others, just a note on that, but it does group by the payment, exceptional payment method. And then it includes all the record and fee details. By the way, it would include all of the account code assignments, the general ledger account code. These are fake fees in our fake environment. But your account codes would be demonstrated here, shows the exact amounts, shows how much was taken. A seller receipt number, and then totals. It'll do subtotals by exceptional payment method, and then it'll do a grand total for all exceptional payment methods. And by the way, it did include the payment, you know, those payment details that are required in the payment comment when you post this. Okay, we jumped ahead a bit, but this is a good conversation because it's important that we understand how all of, oh, Laylee, you had a question. Sorry, I was on a different screen.
It's okay. I was just going to ask, so in that revenue exceptions, I'm assuming that you can drill down by day, week, month, whatever date range you want.
Absolutely. When you run the
Okay.
report, it asks you to start and end dates.
Okay. And then
And
just
this
for
is the
clarification,
transactional date, by the way, just an
okay.
important note there.
Since I haven't participated in this whole process up until now, are we going to be obligated then to process all of our SDCs and CET taxes, excise taxes through Acela?
Yes.
So that's an obligation.
Yes, they can. Well, you know what? You don't have to do your SDCs through the system. You don't
But
have to.
I mean, it almost seems, okay, we don't have to, but then if you're issuing a building permit and such, are
Right.
there other fees that you can include? Like if you choose to be all in and
Yeah.
process all of the CET tax, your SDCs, and what have you. There are a lot of other fees that localities have, like a sewer tap, a water connection fee, a sewer connection fee, a storm connection fee,
Yeah.
that are usually collected at the time the building permit is issued.
Right, those will be in Acela as well for all of your agencies. The only agency that didn't
Okay.
take advantage of all of that, of the whole meal deal kind of thing, is Ontario. They're
Okay.
just doing building and planning.
Okay. Okay.
But the rest of
Okay.
your agencies did decide to put your public works engineering permitting process, your
Yep.
planning
Okay.
permitting and application process, your code enforcement, and your building.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
You bet, you bet. I think one important thing to hit on is SDCs. I could see how you could probably easily manage those outside of the system just because, they're not calculated in the same way that like an excise tax is. So the excise taxes are highly scripted in Acela. We know Metro's built in and highly scripted based on all of the rules with Metro. We have a direct partnership with Metro for this process. So we have all of the reports built in. So we have the Metro excise tax audit report built into the system. I'm just going to say from the first to, oh wait, sorry. I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to go back further because this is test data. It's garbage data. So let's hope we have something in there for Metro. You run it for the date range, of the reporting period, whatever that might be. And oh, sorry, that's the audit report. My apologies. We do have an audit report, but we also have the tax report. Sorry about that. The audit report just allows you to see all of the details that were included in the worksheet report. I don't have a report frequency and it's required. Look at that. It's going to fail. Oh, goodness. Thank you, test environment. Give me just half a second here. My apologies. That report, Metro is Milwaukee. Let me log into an agency, a production agency that I know has data. City of Milwaukee. Oh, my caps lock is on. Yep. All right, now let me run it. And then this is a live agency. I'm going to go ahead and run the Metro report. And the reason I think it's kind of important to kind of see these is I want you to know that all of these are fully built out. So all of your reporting and everything is done for you. If you process the data here, doesn't matter. Typo, doesn't matter. I'm going to say monthly. It generates the actual Metro submission form. It takes all of your data, it does all the calculations, it enforces
Hey,
all of
Kelly?
the rules. Sorry?
This is Becky from Wood Village. We can't see the reports at all.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I moved screens. Hold. Yep, you're right. Thank you for saying that. I moved screens, so it there. This is City Milwaukee, of course. So you see the Milwaukee banner at the top. It would have your city's banner. And it takes all of your data for the period covered. It populates all of the information here in the submission form that's required by Metro. It includes the reporting frequency and it enforces all of the rules. So like the minimum 100,000 valuation, the max $12,000 fee, and so on and so on. Did somebody ask a question? So and then it includes all. Oh my goodness. Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Can everybody hear
Yes.
me? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I'm sitting here talking and somehow when I changed screens, it muted me. My apologies. So this report, if you didn't hear me, it's highly scripted. It enforces all of the requirements from Metro. The $100,000 minimum, the $1,012,000 maximum, the 12%, this 000 or 0012%, the 5% that
we
is
lost
retained.
the screen sharing's gone. Oh, no, sorry, never mind. I got it.
Okay. Sometimes when I'm moving screens, yeah, you might have to refresh. But it, and it includes your administrative portion that you get to retain. It indicates how much has to be remitted to Metro. This is their form. So you pretty much print this out and send it in with a check. It includes all of the record detail, the transaction or the first issue date, because issuance is what invokes this fee or invokes the payment timing of this fee. And then the amount that was collected, all the pages of detail and totals and so on. We have this same report. I know I'm gonna have to reshare my screen.
Just share the screen.
Hold on just a second. I'm hearing that I can maybe share this better.
To say screen. Yeah.
Aha. Stacy got me dialed in, so I don't have to keep sharing and unsharing because I'm on a single screen instead of 3. We also have other external payment reports. So we have the school excise report is also built in. So when we kind of coming full circle back to the question about maybe fees that we could not process through Acela, I would suggest that the construction excise taxes continue to be calculated, collected, and managed through Acela. The reason I say that is because they are calculated directly upon building fees or based on building valuation and square footage. So as permits come in, those fees pull data from all the other parts of the record to determine when they're assessed and how much is assessed. Because again, they're highly scripted. And we have the reports totally built into the system that you print out, reconcile against your accounts for those funds, and then send the check or remit the check. SDCs is a different animal. Those aren't external pass-through type fees. If you did want to manage your SDCs outside of Acela through some other system, you'd probably have to somehow keep track of the building information that's happening though, so you knew when and how much to charge for SDCs. I feel like the source data that invokes the charging or assessment of SDCs lives in Acela, so it makes sense to assess the SDCs in Acela. But I'm telling you right now, you are not required to assess and collect your SDCs through Acela. So just because that question was asked, I want to make sure and give a thorough answer on that. All right, I'm going to come back to our agenda because we kind of ping-ponged around quite a bit. So we asked one agency and 2 others piped in that you have a very similar process. So I think I'm hearing, please confirm that King City, it sounds like Wood Village and Fairview, and Lowell all receipt your credit card payments through an outside credit card processing agent where you have no credit card fees, or you pass it along to the customer. Am I accurate?
Yes. Correct. King
That's-
City, yes.
Yeah, true for Wood Village.
And is it all for all of you? Is it express bill pay?
Wood
For
Village
Lowell-
uses somebody else.
Okay. Just curious. It's more just information for us so that we.
So I was gonna say for Fairview, we do use express bill pay, but we do not pass the fee to the customer.
Oh, okay.
And our credit card policy is we only take credit cards up to $5,000.
Okay. So and that was Fairview?
Fairview, yeah.
Fairview, thank you. So for Fairview, you'll withhold invoicing in order to manage that.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of
Okay.
gleaning from
Yeah.
what you said. Okay.
And the only reason that is the minute you invoice a fee, even if you've told the applicant you only accept check or cash, the minute a fee is invoiced is it's available through a pay fees link online. And inevitably, even if you've told the applicant don't pay with credit card, we don't accept credit cards. If they see a red pay fees link online when they're tracking their permit, they end up paying it. And it's with a credit card because everything online is transacted through credit card. So the way to handle that is to withhold invoicing. I want to let you all know, maybe a little glimmer of something cool maybe coming down the line is we are enhancing our payment processing soon to come, based on some upgrades with Acela. In short, not to get too technical, and that process might, I need to be very clear, we have not received confirmation, but that process might allow us to put a ceiling on the credit card transactions, like a hard max. Which means that you wouldn't necessarily have to withhold invoicing potentially. The system would kind of manage that $5,000 max ceiling for you. But it's not here yet. I want to be really clear. It's not available to us yet. So just a note on that.
So-
Since you mentioned the 5,000 max.
So is there, it sounds like though, if we're not invoicing, there is some kind of a report or something that we'll be able to generate to let them know what they do owe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Under record summary, it's the fee by record. It's a comprehensive report of all the fees on the record, whether they're invoiced or not. Good question. Okay, so kind of continuing to come back to this because I don't want to lose track. For the agencies that, okay, so those agencies that are going to use express bill pay or an external system to where you have the opportunity to pass along the credit card fee. For those agencies, which I'm hearing now maybe is only Wood Village, Lowell.
Lowell said they don't do.
Just
Wasn't
to
that
clarify,
Debris?
Lowell does not pass on the discount fees to customers.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we
you'll
do
be
use
processing
express bill
things in
pay, but we
Acela.
don't pass that fee.
All right, thank you
Okay.
for that. I'm trying to keep track of everybody. So we have King City and Wood Village.
Yes.
Okay, so both of you will only use your Converge account. I'm telling you this because there's a submittal that's wrapped around this. It's the Converge Startup Guide. That Converge account is the Acela payment processor for our online transactions, which are the base provision of e-permitting that are required as per your IGA. So those permits that auto issue online are paid by credit card. Now they tend to be lower dollar permits because they're trade permits. So there's that one. But this Converge account is provided through US Bank Elevon. The startup guide that has been provided, and if anybody doesn't have it, we will send it again. But the Converge startup guide gives you detailed step-by-step instructions on how to apply for that required online credit card processing account. That, for those two agencies, Wood Village and King City,
King City's already started.
you will not use Converge for your back office transactions. So when you're filling out that submittal, oh wait, there's not a submittal. So we have recorded that we will not be turning on Converge in the back office for Wood Village and for King City, because you'll be processing your credit card transactions through a different agent. For everybody else, you have the option of using your Converge credit card processing account not only to process your online transactions as a minimum requirement, but you have the option to also use it to process your back office credit card transactions directly through Acela with a single pass. And the Converge Startup Guide document includes all of the fee details related to that process. We will need the rest of you to make a decision on if you want to use Converge credit card processing, which is integrated, by the way. It's a single pass. If you want to use it to also process your back office credit card transactions in Acela. Okay,
You know
so
what
it's a,
The
what you
fee for
mean
the
by
credit
back
card fee?
office?
oops, sorry, people kind of were over the top of each other.
What is the credit card fee, processing fee? Do you know?
Well,
US
if you,
Bank?
on the Converge Startup Guide, it depends on the card. So like those cards with mileage perks, and once you get 10,000 miles, you go to Disneyland, like a Disneyland credit card. Those cards have a higher transaction rate. That's how they fund those perks to the card holders. But the average credit card processing rate is about 3%.
Which is high.
That's high.
That's high. Yeah, it is.
So you have the option of staying with whoever your existing city card processor is for the back office. So Laylee, you say you have, even though you don't pass along the credit card fee, you have a cheaper processing rate with whoever you're currently doing credit cards with. So in the back office for Acela, you will decline to use Converge for the back office. You'll continue to use whatever card processing agent you have today, and you'll just post payments in Acela. You'll still post them as credit card payments, though. We'll show you how it works, because what we'll do is we'll turn off the processing configuration. So at that point, you'll just be recording that you took a credit card. It will not have any processing mechanism or anything to it. It will just be posting informationally so that you can reconcile. Becky, you had a question?
I just wanted to, if you could clarify what you meant by the back office application. Is that just when we're doing data entry?
Yes, that's the staff side of the software. What we've been training on this whole time, yeah. What the customer sees is website based, and it looks very different.
If we want to shut that off,
sorry.
If we want to shut that off, just for the back office part, can we just send you an email or something on that? Because ours are cheaper also outside.
Yeah, absolutely. All you got to do is send an email to the signed project man or to any of us, doesn't matter. We'll get the information. Carrie, who are you with again? I'm so sorry.
Ontario, City of Ontario.
Ontario, thank you. Yeah, you just let us know that you do not want to use the Converge processing in the back office, that you're going to go ahead and continue to use whoever your city uses. In that case, now I'm wondering, would they be journal entry? No. So I'm going to come back around to Wood Village and King City. You're not going to use Converge. That's fine. In the back office. It sounds like pretty much none of you, but maybe one would use Converge in the back office, but we'll get that answer from the 6 of you. Sounds like pretty much most of you aren't going to use Converge in the back office. You have a more competitive credit card processing rates elsewhere. I'm going to kind of backtrack what I said, and I'm going to eat my words a little bit. We are going for Wood Village and for King City. You would still record those as credit cards. I said journal entry, but I think at this point, because we can turn off your credit card processing functionality in the back office, you would still post as a credit card for reporting purposes. So you have the payment type detail so that you can reconcile it with Express Bill Pay. Whether you're collecting the fee or not, meaning the processing fee, we can still turn off the functionality in the back office. So you can still process it as a credit card. Show it as a credit card. You can still post it and display and show it, kind of showing your work, so to speak. You can dual enter it and still record it as a credit card for reporting purposes so that you have the payment type detail. And then you can reconcile that with Express Bill Pay, which was your processing agent.
Are you an
So
Sorry.
everybody will have Converge turned off. All of you will still record credit card payments as credit cards. It's just that we'll turn off the credit card processing functionality because we can do that in the back office.
And I incorrectly uploaded Amy. I was gonna delete my. But,
Amy, real quick, Stacy is
you
saying,
wouldn't invoice them. You just wouldn't process it.
If she invoices them, they're
so
available.
does that mean we wouldn't invoice the fees until payment's been received via Express? Yes, I would agree. You wouldn't invoice them until you took the payment in Express Bill Pay. Because the minute you invoice those fees, Amy, maybe they'll pay online through an e-permitting, which would be Converge credit card processing. And you'll pay a 3% fee.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thanks.
If Converge
Yep.
is turned off in the back office, wouldn't that just disable that functionality? If there's no agreement and nothing in place to process a credit card with, how would they do that? Wouldn't that just sort of negate that?
Online is still turned on. Online
Oh.
is a base provision of the IGA for participation in Acela.
I see.
In
Okay.
e-permitting. Yeah. But I guess kind of to some small extent, unfortunately, the minute you invoice fees, a pay fees link shows on the record if somebody's looking at their record online. And incidentally, they could just click the pay fees link and pay with a credit card. And when they do that, that's going to be Converge. So withholding invoicing is the way to prevent them from paying online incidentally through Converge when you want to force them to pay with you through other means. It's a lot. That's why we do this advanced financial training. When we start talking to people about it, they're like, oh goodness, my head is spinning. There's a lot here, and there is. I think the real big takeaway, kind of to summarize, because we've talked about a lot already, is that online transactions have to go through Converge. That's one of the base provisions of the e-permitting product that you're participating in. Those things that auto pay online are residential and commercial electrical, residential commercial plumbing, and residential mechanical. It's only the trade permits where no plan review is indicated. Otherwise, everything else that goes through the online portal is application only, and no money is collected at intake or online for those. Up and until you assess fees, the minute you invoice those fees, the pay fees link becomes available online. It's not like it's blinking or advertised or emailed out to the customer, but it is available. And a lot of customers using your permitting, if they're applying online, they're tracking their process online because they can track their permit from intake to plan review to issuance through inspection and final. And so, forgive me, and so that invoicing becomes key. When you invoice and what you invoice. You would only invoice things like Amy at King City mentioned at the time you're taking the payment. If you want to force them to pay through some external method, either Express Bill Pay separately or cash your check. Okay, I want to just kind of summarize everything we talked about. We covered a lot of ground. Let's look at a record. I'm going to very quickly create a new record. I'm not training on this part, so don't feel like you have to know what I'm doing. Some of you should, because you've been in the training since the beginning, but for the finance folks, you don't. I'm just kind of creating a test record for us here to work with. Oops, let me maximize this. Again, don't feel like you have to know what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to get a record created that we can muck with. Oops. Oops, number stories 10. Wrong field.
Big house.
Just tearing through that, trying to get a record created that we can goof with. Oops, I missed something. Ah. I think I missed the valuation. I don't remember entering valuation. There it is. Waiting for it to process my application. Here we go. Okay, here's my test record. I want to just demonstrate when you create a new record in the building module only building, because fees are predictable as per Division 50, consistent forms and fees. We can predict and calculate, we can automate the fees on building records based on the data that was entered into the application. In this case, building permits or structural permits. In this case, I'm just saying I'm going to add like a new bonus room to my existing home, 600 new square feet addition. Structural is valuation based. The fees are. So the valuation that was input for the application, which is contractor declared valuation. Notice there's two tabs over here. I'm hovering around with my mouse. The contractor declared valuation is what the initial fees are automated on. When they're first automated to the record, they're in a status of new, which means they are not yet invoiced. They are not payable yet. They are based on the contractor's declared valuation. So a permit fee was calculated based on that valuation, $725.40. The structural plan review in our example city here is 65%. So 65% of the calculation factor, which is the permit fee amount, is $471.51. So the structural plan review, and then 12% of the permit fee is the state surcharge. So 12% of $725.40 is $87.05. Surcharge is and we don't say this because surcharge is coming to building codes. Surcharge is a very important part of the fee and payment training process. It can make you a giant migraine if staff are not managing it well in the payment and fee process. So let's talk about that briefly. Let's say at this point I am at intake. Typically the process in building is I invoice the plan review fee and I take payment on the plan review fee at intake. And I'm taking the plan review fee as based on the contractor's declared value at this point at intake. So I'm going to go ahead and say, they're paying with a check. I put in my, my check number. I process the payer as recorded on the check, and it's Tim Hauser's check. And I save my payment. I've now just paid the plan review as the intake fee. A receipt is generated. I can email it to the applicant and owner or the contractor, whoever is appropriate. And I'm done. And that receipt is saved in the Documents tab by default. So it's always accessible. But my transaction, the payment transaction I just made, is listed here in the payment tab in the bottom half of the screen. I want to show you there is a payment history audit tab available to you on every record. It will give you all of the details, including the cashier's ID and any other information that we collect on the payment in this audit tab. The date, the payment that was receipted, and I don't know what the 870, oh, that's the receipt number, and the fee item that it paid. So it will give a line item detail by cashier and date stamp of everything that was transacted via that payment. In addition to the fees, there's a fee history audit tab available on every record that will include a time and date stamp, who did the action, which staff user assess these fees, and then the action they did. So by creating the record, and I was the permit tech, for example, that created the record, these 3 fees were automatically inserted. They were automated through the scripting. They're predictable, so we're able to calculate those based on your rates. For every agency, we've built out your fees based on your adopted rates. And then I invoiced a fee. So I updated this particular fee by way of invoicing it. So in the fee history, there was an update made. I was the staff user that actually invoiced this fee item. So in the fee history tab on a record, you'll end up seeing eventually pages. Particularly on building records, they tend to be pretty fee heavy. Everything from planning review fees and public works review fees, school CET, metro CET, SDCs, anything else you charge on the back of a new construction permit, for example, probably being the record type that has the most fees that you'll be using in the system. This fee history tab ends up being quite lengthy. Any tab, any list tab or view that has is a list view, has a menu, you can expand the list. So for example, if this was 4 pages worth of data, I could use the menu button to expand this list. And instead of seeing 4 pages, it might melt it down to like 2 pages by including many more rows of data in the view. I can also export this to Excel. So anywhere you see a menu button on a list or on a page or on a view, you have an export option. You can export this fee history data, the audit data. I can export the payment history data if I need to, and I can, have that in Excel and do some level of evaluation or audit or review or I mean, I'm not saying you have to export it, but sometimes you might find that you need that. I get help desk tickets all the time on financial issues, and I often find myself exporting the fee history to see what in the world happened. How did the fees get broken on this record? I use the fee history tab often to problem solve. So I want you to know there are audit tabs, fiscal audit tabs available to you directly on every single record in the software. So now that I've made the intake payment, which is typical in the building process, I have to kind of demonstrate this process because I need you to see how fees become automatically unapplied through the software, the way that the system works. So I took that intake fee based on the contractor's declared value. So now, as the process would go, this application would advance to plan review. The plans examiner unrolls the actual plans and does an actual plan review. Whether electronic or on paper, doesn't matter. They do a plan review. And when they do the plan review, particularly on any added square footage, that new footage is susceptible to the valuation calculator. That is a requirement of the building code, which means that that new footage could be valuated through the valuation calculator, which is adopted through ICC. All of you are required to adopt it. You all have it. It's there, just so you know. The plans examiner comes in and they actually do some real calculations based on the ICC valuation calculator, based on the scope of work. Plans examiners are expert at this data, as well as some of your permit techs might be expert at this data. So they add this information, they save their evaluation, and we now look at the 2 values. According to the calculator for this addition, it calculated this 600 square foot addition at $99,402 of value. However, when the contractor submitted, they declared $150K. According to building code rule, you get to use the value, the higher of the 2. So the valuation stands at the $150K. So I would be able to move forward, staying with the $150,000 valuation, not using the lower valuation. I'm going to artificially inflate this. So just bear with me. I want it to be higher just so I can show how the system works. Say this was the valuation calculator value. It wasn't 600 square feet on the plans. Turns out it was 950 square feet when I unrolled the plans, not 600. And the valuation calculated through the calculator at 157,386. When I go back to the fee tab, there's this thing called the fee calc factor. It will display both the contractor's submitted job value, meaning as per their contract, and the valuation calculator that is a requirement for all new footage. You get to use the valuation that's the higher of the two. The calculator's higher. So the minute I flip the fee calc factor, watch what my fees are going to do. That plan review fee that I collected, invoiced and fully paid, has now automatically voided to credit. And a new plan review fee has been calculated based on the changed valuation. So now if I go and look at my payment, I see I have an unapplied payment because the fee that this money was applied to has been voided to credit. So the money that was applied to it has become unapplied. So I now have a $471.51 unapplied credit sitting on this record. And let's say we took this check a week ago at intake and it took the plans examiner, a week to do the plan review. We've already been funded for this money. We've already been paid. We, agency, we've already been funded for this. The check was deposited that night. We've already realized the revenue. So an unapplied credit sits here. The minute when we train permit tech staff primarily are doing this work, when we train that you must, the minute you flip the fee calc factor, the minute you have to change it, you need to address the unapplied money and you need to address the newly calculated fees. As soon as I flip the fee calc factor based on the plan review that now has happened a week later, as the permit tech, the plan review's been completed, but the valuation's changed. So I flipped the fee calc factor. My plan review fee that was paid, invoiced and paid a week ago has become unapplied and credited. I now have to immediately invoice the newly recalculated plan review fee, go to my payment, take my unapplied payment and reapply it. I have $471.51 that was paid at intake that I'm going to apply to my new plan review fee, my newly recalculated and higher by about, I don't know, 12 bucks or $9. I can't do the math today. And I'm going to submit that I've reapplied that payment. I no longer have a $471.51 unapplied credit from my original week-old payment that we've already been funded for. I've reapplied it to the newly recalculated plan review fee, and I have a remaining balance of $16.90 that I will collect together with the issuance fees, which are the permit fee and the surcharge. Okay? Yes. And not reapplying that unapplied payment, that intake payment, is going to result in an overpayment. Because if you don't reapply it, the full $488.41 shows as an outstanding unpaid balance, and the customer is going to pay the full fee, $488.41, along with their issuance fees. They're going to pay the total balance of these three fees, which means they're going to overpay by how much? By $471.51, because you already have $471.51 paid and funded and available as a credit. And because I'm just going to kind of talk black and white here, because you neglected to reapply it at the time you recalculated the fees, the customer will inevitably overpay and you'll have to process a refund. Because, again, I'm being very black and white here because we have to kind of just talk about how it works, because that would have been a misstep on the part of staff. So the $471.51 would have been overpaid by the applicant when they paid issuance fees, because they would have paid this in full rather than only paying the remaining $16.90. So now you've got to process a refund. This is the number one help desk ticket we receive, literally, other than user problems, kind of log in, that kind of stuff. But financially, this is the number one ticket we receive, is we receive a ticket from an agency and they say, oh, the customer paid and now I have a credit in the same amount as what they should have paid. And I'm like, because you didn't reapply the original intake payment before, excuse me, my screen popped up there. I told you about that thing. Before you collected issuance. This is on the training outline about changes in valuation and fee changes. Recalculating the fees, reapplying the paid monies and the surcharge considerations. So now let's take a look at it again. We took care of that. Now we're going to invoice the issuance fees. Oh, Stacy says there's a hand up. Yes, Laylee. Did you have a question, Laylee?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't unmute.
That's my
Considering that
problem.
that's the largest single ticket item, is
Yeah.
there a report that allows you to see unapplied, just your unapplied payments?
You are so on it, Laylee. Thank you so much. Yes. Cashier reports, again, this is where all your financial reports live. Under reconciliation, there's an unapplied report. You would run this report from the day you go live. The start date will always be your go live date. So I'm going to fake it here and just say, oops. Yeah, I'm going to fake it here and say, oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Cannot type today. I'm so sorry. Let's say I went live on that date. My agency started with e-permitting on that date. I'm always going to use that date because to see unapplied monies, you need in the report looks at the transaction date, the date it became unapplied. So you got to look at unapplied money from day one. If
Okay,
you
so the
look at
date
it
it
only,
became unapplied, not the date the original payment was made.
correct.
Okay,
And it ages them.
okay.
It'll give you some aging as well through the
So
report.
to
They're very,
me, I guess to me, looking at that, that is your number one way to troubleshoot issues when when you know that you have a problem with the total payment amount, let's say. That would
100%.
be the easiest thing to go back and look at.
100%. 100%.
Okay. Yep.
But the catch is in between you reviewing this and having recalculated the fees, for instance, the day we flipped the fee calc factor, the customer might have already overpaid. They might have already, repaid the 488.41 in full and not been able to realize they can't see their credit. That's only a back office. So if you neglect to reapply it before you invoice the remaining fees for payment, they're gonna overpay. And
Right.
part of our balancing procedure, when we talk here cash balancing, part of the procedure that we train best practice is that you're running that unapplied report every day.
Every day. That's what I would say. It needs to be part of your checklist every
Yeah.
single day.
Every night, like end of day procedure, you need to be looking at unapplied money because, yeah, maybe you missed it. And so within the same transaction date, I can go back and reapply it really quick. I can, fix it, so to speak. The other thing is the unapplied is important is aging. You do not want unapplied money to remain for too long. You guys as finance directors and managers make those decisions, but unapplied money becomes a liability if it sits there too long. You are funded for it and it's just sitting there unapplied. And eventually, as time goes, it can become a big problem, right? If it sat there for over a year, what if it sat there beyond a fiscal year? So you already realized that revenue, you already reported on it, you're potentially doing budget forecasting on it, and it's sitting there unapplied. So aging on unapplied transactional money is just, I can't even tell you how important. And I'm sure all of you realize that because it does become a liability. I ran unapplied transactions for an agency that will remain unnamed. A couple of years ago, they turned in a ticket. They said they lost $250,000, literally. And I said, you did what? And so I start scouring, all their fiscal reports, and it was unapplied. And it had sat there for like 6 months because the project was a massive commercial project and the project ended up taking like 2 years to complete. But $250,000 sat unapplied for like 6, 8 months. That is crazy, a crazy liability. You know, it sadly really lost track of a lot of money. And they were not running the unapplied transaction report with any sort of frequency. Our recommendation as best practice is daily. But I mean, at the worst, I would say weekly. I mean, you know, if you're really dropping the ball, I'd say at least once a week, right? And I imagine I'm preaching to the choir, but I can't tell you how many help desk tickets I process every day as the primary financial person on the team, where I'm running these reports for agencies and they can't find this and they can't figure out why money got reapplied to the wrong place and yada yada. And I start looking at these reports and it's just right there. And so it really tells me that incidentally, they're not running the reports. They're not reconciling. They shouldn't be turning in a ticket to us 3 months later and saying, we're trying to do surcharge and we can't figure out what happened to $5,000. And I'm like, for a month, 3 months ago, unless you're a quarterly agency, if your agency is small enough, you are allowed by rule to do surcharge on a quarterly basis. But we do recommend you reconcile surcharge, whether you're doing the remittance quarterly or not. You should be reconciling surcharge every single month to stay ahead of any issues. So let's talk about that, because surcharge becomes unapplied. That becomes your next second most common ticket. So I invoice the issuance fees because I need to collect those now too. And so when I go to payment, I can see that I have the remaining $16.90. I can see here kind of in my invoice list. I have $16.90 remaining from that increased plan review. And I have the issuance fees, which is the permit and the surcharge. Those two invoices are not paid in full. They equal a total balance of $858.47. So the customer comes in to pay this with a check. Yep. So we're going to go ahead and we'll process our check. Yeah. We're just going to tear through this really quick, oops.
Partial payment.
Not in this training. I don't know. I do that in the fee training that I did before. Okay, we got a receipt. I emailed it. I'm kind of tearing through that because we need to talk about more than numbers than we do the process. So I took a second payment on this record and I took it for $858.47. I am now no money unapplied and I'm paid in full. Both my invoices show as paid in full. And then a revision comes in on this and they say, you know what? We want to add a bathroom to our bonus room addition. So we want to throw another 100 square feet on the project. And so generally speaking, the plans examiner that's reviewing the revision will come back in here and they will increase this. Okay, I can't do, like I said, math today, by the increase to the square footage. That increased the valuation. That valuation is being used here. But because the fees have already been invoiced and paid, they do not automatically recalculate. That is something extremely important that everybody touching the money and the fees must know as kind of just a ground rule. If the fees are invoiced but unpaid, I can checkbox them and force them to recalculate. However, if they were invoiced and fully paid, they do not recalculate. I could checkbox them all day long and hit recalc and nothing's going to happen. Once they're invoiced and fully paid, they are as they are. But my valuation just went up because of a revision. The way to handle that is now I need to manually void these fees to credit. I need to say that there's a calculation change. I'd probably say this. I'd say evaluation change. This is internal only. This is for audit purposes because you're voiding fees. I save my void reason. And now all the fees on the record are voided to credit, which means all of the money that's been paid has become unapplied. Because I had a revision and another valuation increase and the fees were already fully paid, I have to manually add the fees back to the record. I need to add one plan review. I need to add one permit fee. Surcharge is automatically calculated. You never have to manually muck with surcharge. So now I have new fees on the record. By the way, in the fee screen, you can sort by status. You can sort by any of these column headers, but by status is one I use all the time. I don't like to see the credited voided stuff all commingled with my new valid stuff. These fees recalculated at a higher rate because evaluation went up. So now I have to invoice these again because I made a valuation change, and I have to go back to the payment and I have to reapply it. This original payment, thinking kind of sequentially, think order of events. This original payment was originally paid to pay structural plan review. So I'm going to reapply it in the same way. I don't have to, but I'm going to. This is kind of just a more, I mean, if you're thinking about things like sequentially, it kind of keeps the money aligned with how it was originally paid. And there might have been different payers. So the original payer who paid plan review might have been Joe, and then issuance fees was paid by Krista. Joe's obligation on this project was to only pay the plan review fees. So if you apply his payment now to permit fees instead, maybe contractually or something, that wasn't what his obligation was. So there is some importance to keeping the original payments aligned with the fees they are originally intended to pay. So I just reapplied our original plan review payment to the new plan review, newly calculated plan review. And I'm going to check box now the payment that was made to pay the issuance fees. I'm going to reapply that as well. Originally, let me back out. I'm sorry. I need to gather the numbers real quick. Originally, it could have Chris write it for me. I paid $751.40. I need to look at the original amounts that were paid, and the original surcharge was $90.17. That's what that payment paid. And I'm strictly taking note of it because I want to reapply things the same way. So on the permit fee, I had paid $751.40. And on the surcharge, I had paid $90.17. And I paid $16.90 of the plan review originally with this payment. So I'm going to kind of keep chipping away by reapplying that payment in the same amounts to pay down the newly recalculated fees. Now I have a remainder of $115.05. Both my payments are fully applied. There's no unapplied, no unapplied. Oops, no unapplied. And now I can go to the fees and kind of see what my net remainder is. I have $42.25 remaining due on plan review. I have $65 remaining on permit fee, and I have $7.80 remaining on surcharge. Now, let's say I had reapplied that payment in full to the permit fee, and I didn't have enough, and I replied what I applied whatever was left over. So $65 more I applied here. I paid this, let's just say I paid it in full when I reapplied the payment, rather than splitting out $90 and whatever to the surcharge as well. I paid that in full, and I paid whatever I had left to surcharge. You have now put your surcharge out of balance. The rule for state surcharge is this. You owe state surcharge on any permit fees that were paid in the period, whether you have collected the state surcharge or not. So, for instance, let's say I applied a payment, $100, just round numbers so I can do the math, $100 to a permit fee because they gave me a $100 check. So I applied $100 to the permit fee. I didn't pay any of the state surcharge, which was owing of $12. And this month comes and goes, maybe it was in the last week of the month or something. And now we're in October. When I go to run my state surcharge report for September, it is going to say that I owe $12 more of state surcharge than you have in the bank. because you didn't collect the $12 of state surcharge in the same period that you paid the permit fee. So our surcharge report specifically looks only, a lot of people are surprised by this, only at paid permit fees. It does not look at paid surcharge fees. Show you what it looks like here. This is the actual worksheet that you remit with payment. Our reporting fills in all the information. All you got to do is cut the check and remit and send it. But what if you didn't have 262 for the month of September? Let's just say I ran it for September. What if that's not what you had in the surcharge account? What if you only had $12 short of that? You would be $12 short of that. By way of my example, if somebody took a $100 bill and they applied it to $100 to permit fee and they didn't take any commensurate payment on the surcharge, this report is going to say that you owe that $12, even though you didn't collect it, because that's the rule on state surcharge. So it is imperative that when you collect payment on permit fees, you collect the commensurate state surcharge. Or, very worst case, you make sure that the surcharge is paid within the same month that you paid within the same reporting period as the permit fee. So yeah, maybe I took a check September 8th and I only paid the permit fee with it. And then before September ends, I need to take payment on the surcharge as well. Otherwise, we're going to be upside down. You are going to owe the state more surcharge than you collected. There is a details report that is absolutely necessary for state surcharge. I'm going to run it for the same period. I don't know if I'll get anything. We'll see. Because it's our test system. No, this report is broken. I'm telling you, Omega reports have to get fixed. Hold on, I'm going to do it in Milwaukee since I had Milwaukee open. I'm going to run Milwaukee production. I'll do the month of August. It'll ask you if you want the detail, what level of details. I'm going to tell you want record fee item details. You want the gory details. And then permit category, you can run it by discipline to reconcile each disciplinary, area for surcharge fee collection. However, I recommend that you always start with all. If you're out of balance for a particular discipline, then run it for a specific discipline. But, oh my gosh. How could that be broken? That's production. I am so sorry. We're just batting zero today, I tell you. Let me run it for Marion County production. How are they doing surcharge? Running fast here, my apologies. Surcharge details there. Running it in Marion County. Their high volume agency. Please run. I want all the details, all disciplines.
Taking longer. That's good.
Okay, it's thinking. I can see it spinning up here in the little corner. There it is. This is the detail report. Oh, I'm so glad I ran it in Marion County. Any red is an imbalance. This report will immediately identify the records that are upside down or that are out of balance between the reporting periods. So on this, what this report is showing you is calculated is what you owe. Collected is what you actually collected. Now this seems funny because this is backwards. More surcharge was collected than is due in the August period in Marion County. And that's because they probably took a small payment for like a partial payment on a piece of the fee, but they took the payment on the whole surcharge. They just didn't want to be upside down. A lot of agencies do this. They pay the surcharge in full first because they just don't want to get into this bind. So in this case, that's what happened, calculated versus collected. Calculated is what will show on the state surcharge worksheet that you owe. Collected is what you actually collected. So in this report, oops, I hit the last page here. It's taking me the last page, just so you know. The last page is a good page of this report. I often find myself, look, for 1 month, Marion County has 167 pages of surcharge. This is their production agency. I'm jumping to the end. Maybe. What do you mean I'm not showing?
The image.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Guess it's not going to run. Man, I think this is more my computer because Stacy's running the same report separately on her laptop and she's getting it. So this is kind of, I think, a local issue. Sorry about that.
Presenting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be that I just ran the report and now it's airing out. This has got to be something with my sharing. I'm so sorry. Just trying to try it a couple times here. See if I can look out and get it to run again. There, see, now it's running again. I just want to get to the last. Oh, and I got the logo. Hallelujah. That probably means it ran. But now it's, oh, I ran it for a larger time frame.
Yeah.
I'm trying to jump to the last page. As soon as it loaded, I hit the last page icon. The last page, I'll just tell you, it's a summary by discipline. And it allows you to very quickly, without having to go through 254 pages of data, it allows you to very quickly see calculated total for a discipline, for an area, you know, electrical versus mechanical versus plumbing versus structural, the disciplines. It'll show you a total for calculated and a total for collected. So you can immediately see in total where you're out of whack, which discipline is out of whack. And I can't get it to load the last page.
Well, it's just probably delayed because you're in Teams.
My goodness.
You might actually have better
So
luck with a shorter time period since they have
yeah,
so
I'm
much
like,
data.
maybe, yeah, good call. Let me try, I mean, just because Marion County, let me just try this month. Couple weeks, that's it. Oops. Is it going? There it is. Okay, smaller time frame. Let me just page. Let me see if it's even going to page through. I think a lot of this is about the fact that I'm displaying my screen through Teams. It puts a huge drag on the processing time. Looks like it's not going to page through for me. I still have 89 pages, but I only ran it for a week. Yeah, I just need to be able to show the last page. I think Stacy's going to send me a screenshot. Here, let me just run it for a cotton pick a week here. I'm just trying to reduce the load on Teams trying to display Ampro. See, look. Okay, Stacy's going to send me a screenshot. Are you sending it through this meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. This is, I'm so sorry. This is a local issue for me. Where'd it go?
She's trying to get it to load.
Through it's through this meeting, not through a different chat.
Yeah, it might be our.
I'm guessing it's our internet here.
Okay, I'm gonna keep moving because I don't want to lose valuable time. So we've talked about the changes in valuation and the fee changes and reapplying the monies. It is, again, just to kind of summarize on that note, anytime there's a valuation change, anytime you are touching the fee calc factor on a record, I want to make sure I'm in my test environment before I break something. Anytime you're changing this fee calc factor between contractor and calculator based on the building code, or any point in time where you're adjusting either one of these based on revisions coming in or anything to that effect, ultimately, you are going to need to always know that the fees are going to recalculate potentially. If they're invoiced and fully paid, they will not automatically recalculate. You'll have to manually void them to credit and reassess them for them to pick up the new valuation change if they're fully paid. At that point, you need to immediately go to payment in all cases and look to see if any of the payments have become unapplied by the changed figures, by the changed fees. This is just such an important step one, step two. Always, always. If you're ever touching valuation, either tab, if you're ever touching the fee calc factor between those types of changes, you're going to need to reapply any paid monies. And if it doesn't recalculate because the fees are fully paid, you're going to have to manually void and add the fees so they can pick up the new valuation change. Those are like the 3 cardinal rules of fee changes in Acela. Now, there are other kinds of fee changes, right? I might have a plumbing record. You know, we're not talking valuation based. Oops, excuse me, let me get to the fee tab here, trying to make my way down. I might have originally, you know, added a couple of fixtures. They're putting in a backflow. I assess and collect the fees for the backflow. Select all of them, invoice them, collect the payment. Pretty, you know, easy peasy. On a lot of the trades are, you know, they might have paid this in cash. I record the payer. And I save the payment. I get the receipt. I mail it to the owner and the applicant or whatever is appropriate. We do recommend that you email receipts rather than printing them out. There's no reason that you need to print out a physical paper receipt any longer. Even for your desktop process, all of our cashier reporting includes all of the receipt information compiled for balancing purposes. However, if you still want to print out paper receipts, that's up to you. But you'll find that it's probably going to become redundant. So on the payment, I made the payment, I paid it in full. And then the inspector goes out and does an inspection and calls back in the office and says, you know what? They didn't just install backflow. They also installed 20 more feet of storm line to get to the backflow. All right, I'm going to do an addendum. That's what this is called. This very typical in trade work in building. I'm going to now add 20 linear feet of storm line. The fees, look, now I have a credited fee here. Sort by balance and minimum fees. So by the way the system manages your minimum permit fee amount is that it enforces the amount that you've set. So say your minimum fee in this case is $115. I don't know why I had a full 115. Or it's 150, excuse me. And so when I only purchased a $35 backflow, our minimum fee is $150. So it assessed the remainder to maintain that you always receive your minimum fee amount. So just a note on that. But once I added 20 linear feet of storm line, I've now surpassed the $150 minimum fee. I have a $35 backflow, $105 of storm line. Oh, I haven't surpassed it, but I've gotten much closer. So now it's only assessing $10 for us to meet the $150. But notice how it's doing a lot of manipulation and recalculation of fees. In building, fees can become really challenging if staff are not staying on top of fee changes. When you add more fixtures to a permit, the surcharge is going to increase. Surcharge is 12% of the total permit fees. If I add more plumbing fixtures to this permit, because now they ended up putting in another toilet and another sink, and I'm adding more fixtures to this, as I increase the permit fee amount, the surcharge is kind of continually recalculating and assessing and becoming unapplied. Originally, we paid $18. Now it's $25.20. So even trade permits, fees could be changing depending on what you're doing. If they're doing an addendum, it's what we call it in trade work, and the permit's already been purchased and issued, and they are putting in more than they originally paid for, meaning they're working over scope. We see this a lot in plumbing. Plumbing is famous for addendums where they do not purchase all the fixtures that they're installing, and if the inspector's out there and notices it, they send them back in to purchase more fixtures based on what they're installing. Mechanical appliances happens there sometimes too. They purchase a mechanical permit for maybe 1 or 2 appliances, but it turns out they're also adding new air conditioning. So anytime a permit is amended in terms of adding more fees, even the simple trade permits, state surcharge is going to automatically void to credit and recalculate. And you're going to have to go back into payment if money had already been paid and reapply it and collect the remainder. And you need to do those 1, 2, boom, boom. Because the minute I add more appliances, the minute that I invoice these additional items, for instance, as soon as I invoice them, if I neglect to reapply any former payment, the customer's going to overpay. If they beat me to the punch, they're going to overpay by the amount of their original payment, right? So this isn't only structural and isn't only about valuation. These kind of fee calculation changes can happen to the simple trade permits as well. Okay, so super, super important pieces of information. I mean, just ground rules to keep you from having problems with fees and or immediately having your state surcharge out of balance. You have the surcharge audit report that allows you to see the red line items. I think Stacy sent it to me, was able to finally get it to go in chat. Here it is. This is what the final page of that report looked like. It gives you a totals. So by discipline for electrical, both electrical fees and inspection fees are considered permit fees, so they're surchargeable too. So, the calculated is again what you owe. The collected is what you collected. So I could see for electrical, we're in balance. For mechanical, I'm in balance. For plumbing, I'm in balance. For structural, I'm in balance, and so on. I could go through the final page of this without having to go through 167 pages of detail to look for every red item. But I can tell you what, as soon as you jump to the last page and you see like maybe this says $78 and this says $75.16, that's your cue. Now you do need to go into the body of the report. You need to jump into the plumbing permit or the plumbing fee group. They're grouped by discipline. And I now need to see which red line items, which records am I out of balance? How am I $3 owing you owing the state $3 more than we have? Right? Now, I really want you to let you know too, because this ends up coming up usually about 6 months into your go live, is that if there are rounding is happening. We always round up. So your surcharge account, 12% sometimes ends up splitting down to 3 or 4 decimal points, depending on the number. And we round to the second decimal, and we always round up based on government accounting rules. So your surcharge account oftentimes, and especially over time, will be high by pennies. And those pennies will start to add up. Those rounding pennies will start to add up. So your surcharge account, if you are not an agency that will clear it every month, like say it has a small remainder after you remit your check to the state, if you clear it, which I don't recommend you necessarily do, but I'm just talking out loud to you here, you're going to need to know that that some of that money is about rounding. Some of those monies are because your permit tech paid state surcharge before they paid the permit fee. So that your surcharge account might be high, but it's high for good reason. Essentially, the permit tech prepaid state surcharge before they collected the permit fee. Remember that the state surcharge report is based on paid permit fees. So that prepaid surcharge is not due yet, not until the permit fee commensurate to that surcharge gets paid. So state surcharge is a very important tracking very important tracking reports. This is why I suggest you reconcile your state surcharge every single month to get ahead of any imbalances, to catch them before they're due. If you're an agency that is allowed to pay quarterly based on your small size, jurisdictional size, that's in the surcharge rules. If you get to pay quarterly, still balance every month, because I can tell you, we have a few very small agencies, literally very small, and they pay quarterly, and they'll turn in a ticket at the end of the quarter and they'll ask for my help to reconcile surcharge that's 2 and 3 months old. And we have to unwind money that was paid months ago. And that becomes, an undertaking. It requires a lot of journal entries sometimes and a lot of work on old revenue and old reporting. And I don't want any of you to be in that boat. The same would be the case, I would say, for Metro, to be honest with you. Let's talk about exceptional payment methods. We do have a way for you to transact payments. Let's say on what's due on this plumbing permit, let's just say we are going to, by some way, shape, or form policy, we are going to give them a discount. We did something wrong. Maybe a lot of times I see the agencies have policies like if they lost your plans, if you guys lost the customer's plans and the customer has to start over with a new set of plans, they have lost a lot of ground. I do see some agencies have policies where they will waive the fees for plan review in that instance. Sometimes these things are case by case. Sometimes they're policy driven. We have agencies that will charge 50% permit fees if you are rebuilding from a wildfire. Right? That makes good sense. People like Deschutes County, where a good majority of their jurisdiction is in a wildfire hazard zone. They have this kind of policy. They will waive 50% of the building permit fees if you are rebuilding a home or a business that was burned through wildfire. That is a policy they have. When you have a policy that is that specific, where you will waive fees, you would use a fee waiver to pay down the outstanding balance by the amount of your policy. For instance, let's say 50, half. I'm going to just do a round number. You get the idea. I'm going to record it as I'm waiving it. The payer is nobody. This is a non-cash transaction. This is a plumbing permit, but bear with me. I'm just trying to show you the transaction side of this. The note is required because it should say one, who approved it. Because as finance managers, you all know very well, it is key that you are tracking monies that are being waived or discounted, because this is a ripe opportunity for staff to steal. I'm not saying staff do steal. I'm not suggesting that, but I am saying this is the small window of opportunity for staff, one, to show favors to a contractor or to an applicant, a family member, etc., waiving fees on building permits for somebody they know and like. It is an opportunity, a small window of opportunity for them to forgive money that was really paid and pocket the cash. Waive it in the system, but keep the money. Okay, so
that's one of the questions, really tighten down who can do this, and it maybe permissions.
now this is not restricted by user group. Incidentally,
If
go ahead. I don't know if somebody was asking a question, but this is not restricted by user group. We cannot restrict cashiering rights to the payment method. So anybody that has the ability to process a payment has the ability to process a revenue exception. So What I'm suggesting is that you tightly monitor this. The cashier report for this is revenue exceptions. This report, I would suggest through best practice and good financial auditing, should be run maybe daily by finance manager or finance management, or weekly, so that you are monitoring and managing anything and everything that is potentially being waived.
Fairview asked, can you specify what fees are being covered by the waiver?
You can, yes, good question. So let me get back to my record where I said $35. For instance, let's say our policy was 50%. And 50% was 35 bucks. You know, we're just playing here. As soon as I go to save that payment, it takes me to a fee list because that payment is less than, why do I have a credit here? That payment is less than what is due. So I need to decide, I don't know why I'm getting that. Excuse me 1 second. What became unapplied here? Hold on, let me reapply this really quick. I jumped from one thing to another. That's the full balance, isn't it? Need to leave $35. Can somebody do quick math for me? 133 minus 35, please. Sorry, guys, I need to do some quick math. Yep.
98.
Yep. So I could pay 35. I could pay 35. I'm gonna keep needing you to do math. Actually, I paid everything in full.
So you have 28 left is what, after the 235s.
Yeah.
Why does
You
it
see-
have amount 133? I paid
Your
everything.
total is 220 now.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Sorry. So I'm overpaying. So let me take that one out. So what's I'm still over. Did I take this one out?
Yeah, I think so.
So I need to pay
$3.
no, $2 and something.
Yeah.
$2.80. Okay. Sorry guys. Had to replay that first payment first to get this record kind of squared. Sorry. Okay, so I paid let me go ahead and void this because I want to be able to show. I want to be able to show this again. Boop. We're rewinding. I know. I'm setting the payment as a fee waiver. Our policy is half. Let's pretend 35 is half. I have to put in some sort of notes about why I'm waiving as per policy or approved by Mary or whatever the manager, whatever the case is. I say that.
Payer.
Oh, sorry, payer. Forgot that. Trying to run fast here.
Not normal.
No, sorry. Payer's fee waiver. There is not a payer on fee waivers. It's not cash. Trying to run too quick. Fee waiver. There are no payers because nobody's really paying. I'm using this exceptional payment method to pay down the outstanding balance. Let me slow down a minute. Save it. And because it wasn't the full amount, it's considered a partial payment. So it asks me, how do you want to apply the 35 bucks? And maybe I want to apply, pay for half of this. And what would the remainder
20.
be? Huh? 20? I just can't even do it anymore. So I'm paying part of the sink, part of the toilet. I am reducing the amount due for each of these fixtures by the amount of the waiver. $35. I have $35 of waiver available. I do get a receipt that says it was paid with a waiver. I can email it, retain it, print it, and I get to see what fees were paid down by that $35 and what their account code was. Now, anytime an exceptional payment is transacted, the cashier should print out this receipt for finance to send it with their nightly cash balancing. They should also, by procedure, run the revenue exceptions report for the day. And also provide that to finance. Today we've done more than one thing, but the fee waivers here, the account codes, finance needs to know. Somebody needs to be auditing. The cashier, by procedure that we train on, should transact any exceptional payment method, print a copy of that receipt for finance to send with their nightly, balancing, and print a copy of the revenue exceptions report. Now, should somebody on the finance side always be running the revenue exceptions report to keep a track of this and make sure that any cashiers are reporting these transactions? You bet. You bet. We have so far helped 3 agencies in my 10 years here with internal theft. Now, has it been around exceptional payment types? No, it hasn't been. It was done through fake fees and all kinds of complicated stuff trying to hide it. So, and nobody was paying attention to what was being charged. And that person was applying fake exceptional or, big fees for stuff that wasn't really due. And the customer was unknowingly paying, and that staff person was pocketing the money. They were inflating the fees. And nobody was tracking and nobody was looking, and the customer didn't know any better.
I think there's another chat.
Is there another chat?
Oh.
Do I have the procedure in writing? We do, Mira. We have an exceptional payment methods training document.
And I sent it out
And that has been sent out by Stacy.
in the chat.
In the chat. Sorry, where? In the chat. Right here. So in the chat, there's a link to this in our knowledge base. Our knowledge base is an electronic desk manual, so to speak. It's all of our training documents that are published and available on demand by keyword search. This is the link to our payment processing cases and types, which is explicit instructions and information about exceptional payment methods. I know we're over. I don't know how many people can continue to stay, but I have another thing or two to, oh, we lost Lately. I have another thing or two to cover. If you can stay, we deeply appreciate your time. If you can't, we do understand this will be recorded. This is recorded, so you can, if you really need to go, you are welcome to do so. All right, we have a couple last things. We've had so many good questions. The batch file. There is a submittal sent out. I gotta look at it. I gotta look at the submittal. I gotta remember the name. So sorry. There's a lot of these. Look at them. It is Selling and Balancing Financial Batch. This submittal was sent out to everybody maybe about a month ago. I want to let you know that if you weren't involved in completing this submittal, we can send it again. However, the lead person on the implementation project should be able to share this with you. The financial batch information is provided in this submittal, and you get to determine what values, what data you need included in the nightly automated financial batch for use in your financial software. Okay, I just don't want to lose sight of that. That's the financial batch. We do have sample financial batches that I believe that we've sent out. I think I have it here. Do I have some samples here? Advanced financial, I'll bet, yeah. Sorry, I wanted to look at the samples. I think I have, yeah, a
There you
couple.
go.
There we go. So here's a sample batch. It's raw data, comma delimited. Yes, I said that right. And this is generally what it looks like. So it provides a transaction date. It's generated nightly for the previous business day. We are on a 24-hour day because now you're online once you go live. And so business is conducted 24/7. It's not just 8 to 5. So when you balance cash every night, cash and checks, you would balance them for that transaction date. But because nobody can pay cash or check online, right? So you can go ahead and balance cash or checks for the business day each day. And we do recommend that you do cash balancing, even if you only do cursory balancing and you don't actually produce a deposit every day. We do hear from agencies that we don't do a daily deposit, Kelly. We do a weekly deposit. That's fine. But I do recommend that you do cursory cash balancing every night so that you're staying on top of any problems with, with payment processing and capturing them within the transactional day. Credit cards, however, you're going to have to balance the morning after because we are 24/7. You will have converged transactions occurring online. You can see that they're identified in your batch. So you'll have those occurring all the way up until 11:59:59 each transactional day. So you'll have to balance converge online credit card transactions and then whatever your separate credit card agent is, Express Bill Pay or whatever it is that you're using. Okay, Stacy, oh, you just emailed me?
Yeah.
I don't have my email open.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie.
I'll show what it looks like.
Stacy's gonna steal the screen really quick, and she's gonna show the email that is received for the batch file. Did you take it?
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
It's just,
I took it.
Oh,
it's just
I
blinking.
can't see your screen. That's what.
There. Sorry. There we are. Okay, so Stacy's showing the email. It's actually in text in the body of the email, but then the attachment actually shows you that the file. And it's the same kind of file I just showed you. Can I steal back?
Yeah.
Same kind of file I just showed you for Yamhill here. It includes a transaction date if you desire, the account code, the payment method, the amount, the receipt number, and the record number. I would say these are the bare bones that you would collect or receive in your nightly transaction or batch file. By the way, let's be really clear. The nightly batch file cannot, and I repeat, cannot be used to balance cash. And that's because we can only report to you in the nightly batch file the monies that have been applied. So let's say today, Krista took a check for $300, but the fees were only $285. The check was pre-cut. You still accepted the check. $285 of that check today was applied. The remainder, the 15, was not. So in the nightly batch file, you're only going to see the $285 that was applied. The batch file does not include unapplied money. And that's because what do we report it to? It's not attached to anything. There's nothing for us to report it to. So you cannot use a nightly batch file for cash balancing. You can use it for transactional data. That's what it's meant to do. It also does not include refunds. It doesn't include refund data. And that's because when you go to process a refund, you unapply the money first so that you can pay it out of the system. As soon as it becomes unapplied, it's no longer applied. So the transactional batch is explicitly applied money that's reportable, attached to a general ledger account. So to do cash balancing, the procedure is 1, you get the nightly batch file. 2, you run the unapplied transactions as well to manage any unapplied money, like that check that Krista took that was over by $15. You guys are going to accept that check because they're going to have issuance fees due in a matter of a week or two. So that $15 can be applied to the issuance fees when they come due. No need to refund it. More fees are coming in just a few days. So there's $15 unapplied that you need to account for. That will show in the unapplied transactions.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm sorry, I didn't realize my mic was on. I'm just sitting here thinking,
No worries.
how that can create that would wreak havoc with your financial reporting because your credit card, that batch transaction data, let's say you have a credit card payment that winds up with an unapplied amount. You've collected the credit card payment. The batch data is not going to match the credit card that's collected. So
Correct.
that credit card coupled with whatever portion of the credit card discount fees will also be out of balance and nothing will tie.
So the separate credit card fee that you collect outside of Acela, yes, you're going to have to however you transact that, you know, for those of you who pass along a credit card processing fee through like Express Bill Pay or whatever tool you're using, that credit card processing fee is not going to be shown, reported, or transacted through Acela at all. You'll have to track that separately through whoever your credit card processing agent is. I'm sure they have reporting or accounting or reconciliation tools. That's a separate animal. However, I hear you, Laylee. The nightly batch file we send you is applied money. And because at the point it's applied, it's reportable and it becomes reported revenue at the point in which it's applied. Now, that unapplied money is still going to be funded, but it hasn't been applied to any account code. So we really don't have a mechanism in which to pass it along to you other than the unapplied transaction report. So every night, here's the process. Let me get this out so everybody can see it. There are balancing reports. These are specifically about payments, not about how the money was applied. So the balancing reports here provide you, I'm just going to run the most basic one. I'm going to run by, actually, I'm going to get into Marion County because I can see a lot of real data. So I'm going to run payments received by method every night. I'm going to see for the 18th to the 18th because there's a built-in 24 hours here, midnight to midnight. I'm going to run it for all offices. None of you have offices, so just a note on that. You'll always select all. Potentially, you're going to run it for all modules. If you are responsible for balancing just for building, you might run it just for building. If you're responsible for balancing just for one of the modules separately as the cashier just for that work group, then you're going to run it separately. If not, you're going to run it for everything. You will always separate online credit card transactions, especially the way all of you are going to be processing your over-the-counter credit cards separately. So separate the online transactions so that you can see them apart from your over-the-counter credit card transactions, and then all payment methods. So I'm going to submit to see this report. This is Marion County, by the way, and this is just for today so far. So the first page is a summary report or summary page. It says that you've taken $386.58 in cash. That should be in the cash till. It says that for office over-the-counter transactions, credit cards, you've taken $47.26. You should have physical credit card receipts through Express Bill Pay, however, through Express Bill Pay or whatever external tool you're using. You should have credit card receipts that total $487.26 less the credit card processing fee, because we can't account for that. The credit card online for customers that paid online using Converge, that's the payment processor for credit cards for online, receipted $1507.48. These will have credit card processing fees that will be due directly through US Bank and you. And then voided payments, sorry, it looks like somebody, Mira, she must have got pushed out. And then if any payments were voided on this transaction date, they're also recorded for adjusted payment total from all methods. Or excuse me, that's just for the credit, forgive me. And then total less voided net post payments. Or excuse me, that's still credit cards. My apologies. And then total, forgive me, minus the voided for a total posted or for total payments of $21.76. These are the actual payments. So Laylee, think about that $300 check where only $285 was applied and $15 wasn't applied. This is about the $300 payment. This is including the full payment amount, no matter how it was applied or not. And I can go into
I'm
the
thinking
detail.
about that batch transaction report though.
Right, right.
That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about matching that batch transaction report to your payments received reports.
And it won't.
Those won't match.
No, but that
No.
batch transaction report will match our transactional reports.
Exactly. And if those
Which is
two
down in
things are
here.
out of balance, that can create a lot of grief. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we do have, okay, so let's look at some other payment report options that might help bring all these pieces together for you. So one, we train minimally, you run payments received by method every night, and you run unapplied every single night. You need to look at those two things together, period. And your nightly transaction batch. However, there are options. In the balancing side, we do have a few new reports now that pull all of the pieces together. So I have an all-in-one financial report that I can run for today. It's a single daily report. I can't run it for anything but the transactional day, one day. And it includes, it groups all of the payments, the cash payments, all of their payment details, what was paid, what was not paid, anything that was voided or reversed, etc., etc., etc. It's like all the gory details when I look down at the bottom. And the bottom section summarizes all of that. So the cash summary by account code breakdown. It even gives you the breakdown now by the account code as per the fees where monies were applied. So it includes by account code breakdown for cash, for credit cards, for credit card online, apart from credit card over the counter. Those are two different animals. A fee waiver was done, a journal entry was done, and so on. Okay, so there's a potential kind of shaking it out from a different perspective, group by account code. But this daily account financial summary is probably the one you're going to want. I run it for the transactional date. Remember, we're a 24/7. The cutoff date is the day you went live. So let's say we went live a year ago. All modules, all offices. Account code 1 is where your general ledger account lives in the database. Just so you know, this never changes. Always want to separate online credit cards from over-the-counter credit cards, especially where all of you will be using different processing agents. Submit. I think you're going to like this report better than anything. Takes a minute for it to compile because it's pulling information from all kinds of different things. Please run. I'm just hoping it's going to run.
Taking a while, usually that's a good thing.
Where am I at? I'm in Marion County. There.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at this report. So this report is showing you account code by account code, how much cash was reported for this single transactional day. These are the account codes in Marion County. They don't use general ledger, they use words. So bear with me. This is this is what they use for reporting at the account code level in Marion County. This much money was reported in cash to this account, this much cash to the different accounts. And these accounts are based on the fees. Credit cards over the counter, $249 applied to this account, $32 in total, by the way, in totals. Online credit card payments applied this account code for totals. The total of applied money by cash, by credit card over the counter, by credit card online for a total. Any voids within the same transactional date But as we start to kind of scooch over here, notice I have total applied and total unapplied. So today in Marion County for 9/18, somebody reapplied $16,058.16 that was formerly unapplied. They applied it today from a previous payment period. There was a void. And so you can kind of look at everything, including any unapplied money for the day. So you can account for unapplied money and applied money in this single report. Maybe it's going to help Laylee on what you were talking about, because in cooperation with the nightly financial batch, which is explicitly only applied money that can be tied to a general ledger, which can be reported in your system, in your financial system. You could run the unapplied report and enter that into your financial system as well. Here's kind of the thing. Acela separates payments from fees. They are distinctly two separate pieces of the database. Acela is not designed to be a financial software, but e-permitting has done its darndest to allow you to manage your fees, your accounts, your payments, and everything, and all the custom reporting that we provide for financial transactions. But your nightly batch file together with the payment report will show you the difference, if that makes sense. So this payment report might say I took $3,000 in payments, and my nightly batch says we took $2,850 or we applied $2,850. But I'm still going to tell you that if today somebody applied money, it will be in your nightly batch, but that money might have been paid weeks ago. Your nightly applied transaction batch is not a payment reconciliation tool. It is showing you applied money for that transactional date, because you need to report that revenue to each account code.
Question.
Yeah.
Is that nightly batch, transactional batch, is that the same batch data that you would use to import your cash receipts if you chose to import those transactions? Let's say you just chose to do everything through Acela, and you're just going to import those batch transactions into your financial reporting software. Is that the same batch report that you would use to populate your financial software? Or does that batch report that is used for that purpose come directly from the card processing place?
No, there's nothing coming out of Converge. Converge has to be reconciled separately. You will have, once you get the Converge account, you will be provided with secure login access to your local Converge account. And it has like a daily transactional process or tool that you can look at to view all the transactions that came in for the day for your agency. Those would be your online credit card transactions, right? Because those are being transacted through our website. They are being recorded in Acela. That's why when I go to run a payment report, I have to say I want to see online transactions apart from counter transactions, because they're coming in from two different sources, right? And I need to reconcile them both. So the online transactions that are reported in Acela, I would review or reconcile against the Converge batch. I would log into Converge each night, each morning, and I would make sure this matched. And your over the counter, I would use whatever external agent, processing agent you're using, whatever reports or anything they produce to reconcile this amount. They're two separate processing agents, so they are reconciled separately. I don't know if everybody's having a stroke, probably you are, because advanced financials a lot. There is really a lot of fiscal detail happening, and I want everybody to have the data they need to reconcile. And the real important part here is to know that the nightly batch is not equivalent to payment reconciliation. It is specifically applied money that got applied in that day. It doesn't even mean it was paid in that day. It could have been paid 3 weeks ago, became unapplied because valuation changed, and I didn't reapply it until today.
Okay. So my question is really specifically related to the settling and balancing procedures questionnaire that you sent out.
Yeah.
With respect to the last question, my jurisdiction is interested in receiving a nightly financial batch file from Acela for our finance department. It can be comma delimited or Excel. Ideally, this data file can be uploaded to your agency's financial software.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can use journal entry or whatever other data entry mechanism of your choice. So
Right.
my question is, in relation to that specific question on that questionnaire, the batch file that you're talking about in your description here online, is that the batch file that you would then import into your financial software?
Yes, it's this date. This is a sample batch file from Yamhill County.
Right.
This is
And
what
so
they
that batch
received.
file contains applied payments only and not total
Correct.
payments.
Correct.
So the money that you collect may or may not be the same as the money that you import from Acela.
Correct.
So again, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is money, this is when, so this data.
I mean, I
is
understand what's happening with
yeah.
your transactions and I get the applied payments.
Okay.
Our
Cool.
financial reporting software has a cash receipting portion and a payments received portion. I totally understand the segregation. My question is really relating to, I'm thinking in the background, if you are importing transactions from Acela, they, and that is the batch that you're importing are applied transactions only, that may or may not actually balance to your cash received. And if it doesn't balance to your cash received, then you need to figure it out. So in my mind, that unapplied payments report needs to be run at every day prior to the close of business, so that you know when you leave before it's midnight that you have applied and figured out all of those payments. So whatever is importing into your system the next day, your till's going to balance, or you're going to be out of balance, period, until you've sorted out.
100%. Yes.
I mean, that's how I'm thinking about it, because,
you have absolutely
logistically
nailed it.
speaking, figuring that out later just becomes more and more arduous, as time goes on.
Oh, for sure. Yes, for sure. And honestly, the because Acela kind of segregates payment data from applied, this is what got posted and this is how it got applied.
Sure.
And so these transaction reports down here, this one, Laylee, and everybody, this particular report is our newest financial report. You might really like this. It ties together payment, posting, and transactional. So if I run it for yesterday, I think I'm in Marion County still. I run it for all modules, all offices, none of you have offices, all methods, let's just look at the, pretty much that's what you'll be looking at. here's what I get. In Marion County, these are their account codes, remember. They use words instead of general ledger. That's fine, it's your choice. So for this transaction date, notice it's 24 hours of yesterday. For this account code, cash, this is, I'm trying to follow the line, $355 was posted and applied to this account code today, for a total cash for that account code today of that much. But look at the check. This is where this report becomes pretty powerful. Today, this much was applied from payments that occurred today, 1 for 1. But this much was applied today, which is going to show in your batch. This much was applied today from a payment in the previous period, for a total applied today of 56. So your nightly batch is going to show this number, or is going to total, let's just say, for this account code. Your nightly batch is going to total to this number. But this report lets you see that only this much was actually posted in payments today. And this much was posted in a prior period, meaning it was unapplied for whatever reason, recalculations, voids, valuation changes. Building is the nature of the beast in building, that fees become unapplied and recalculate. I mean, just kind of the way that it works. If valuations change, if I add or remove fixtures because they applied for the wrong things or whatever, and new fixtures are more expensive or less expensive than original fixtures they bought. I mean, just this thing, it's just a daily thing kind of in building. Now in public works and planning, no, this isn't a regular occurrence, but in building, it's much more frequent. So for credit cards, let's look at the same thing. Today, this much was posted in payments, but 12,140 in this Marion County, they reapplied 12,147.67. They applied this much today to fees today, but it was receipted or posted in a previous period. Your nightly batch file will show this number, but this is the payments posted today. So this report glues together not only the payments posted, but the money that was applied in the same transactional date. And then you get all the details. You know, you can see the details. So for this account code, these are the two records that had that fee that is set up to associated to that account code, and this is how much was applied or whatever. And you can go through this report. I mean, look here, Marion County used a fee waiver on this record, on these two record, no, on this record. They used a fee waiver to pay a permit fee and a plan review fee. This is not revenue. This is revenue being forgiven. So this report, of all of the reports, if I were going to say, would be the report that you lean on. It's this newest transactions applied, which is your nightly batch, and payments. But it's also going to show you monies that were applied from a previous payment period where you already realized the payment like a week or 2 weeks or 2 months ago. And the money was unapplied and it's only getting reapplied today. So this report, super important. Unapplied transactions, super important. There are different kind of flavors and groupings of balancing reports. These are the bottom line of the balancing group of reports here is about the payments that were posted, not how the money was applied. So I would use a payment balancing report, a payment report, to reconcile my cash drawer each night. I would total my checks, I would total my cash drawer less my seed amount, and I would review those totals against the payment received report for checks and cash. For credit cards, I would log into Converge and make sure that my payment report for online credit cards matches the Converge batch. And I would use whatever reporting is provided by my external credit card processing agent to reconcile my over-the-counter or office credit card payments. That's my nightly cash balancing process. Now, to match everything to the financial software to reconcile at the account code level, this report. This allows me to pull together the physical deposit. But this allows me to reconcile the actual money received and applied to the different account codes for revenue reporting.
I have another question. I'm sorry, but I'm
No,
sitting
hey,
here
this is
trying to
great.
run
And we're
through this
staying
in
over.
my
I'm
mind.
happy to. Yes.
So let's say I take a payment for a building permit and it's issued August 31st, right? And sometime in the first week of September, so that payment is received. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that I use your Acela batch reports to upload transactional data into my financial reporting software. So I batched and closed my August 31st day and imported that transactional data into my financial reporting system. So my financial reporting system has effectively received a payment, right? I've recorded that revenue. Now let's say sometime at the beginning of September, there's a change made to that permit for whatever reason. So we have to go through your whole void, unapply, reapply payment scenario. Okay. Yep. And I do that. Let's say I do that on the very next day. So does that transactional data record a negative balance for that payment that was previously recorded and now unapplied, and then reapply it on that same day so that it nets itself that prior payment? Or does your system just effectively show, okay, this was reapplied, so now I'm going to re-include that fee as part of your transactional data, which means you're double dipping in your reporting software?
It reports the negative.
It reports
as
the
well
negative.
as the positive. I'm just
Okay,
trying to
that's
find one. I was trying to find one of our sample reports that had a negative.
because we have talked about unapplying and reapplying and showing that reapplied payment. That's one thing, but we didn't talk about how that credit is translated into your reporting. So
there we go.
Okay, so it would
I'm like, I
record
gotta
that
find one.
credit. Okay.
But here what they did is they probably did some refunds.
Yep.
So there's no positive net,
Well,
in particular.
the point is, once that credit is generated, that credit also translates into your nightly batch. So the net effect is just the difference for whatever fee you're collecting.
Correct.
Okay. That
So
makes
when
me
a
feel
fee
better.
becomes unapplied, you'll get the negative report.
Okay. That makes me feel better, because I'm sitting here thinking, how is that going to function? That's not okay.
You're asking
Okay.
all the right questions, Laylee. Thank you. Because these are the big questions. These are the big concepts. If somebody maybe ask a question, let me check really quick. Where am I at? Just trying to get back to where am I at? There. Yes.
Oh.
We have a balancing training document, Kirsten, that I'll be sending out to the entire group. And it includes those reports. Good question. All
I'm
right.
not at my computer right now.
Yeah, Chris is not at her computer. So reconciling accounts is apart from cash balancing. And Laylee has helped with her great questions to really underscore that, right? Because your transactional batch each night is not equivalent to payments post. I mean, in a perfect day, Laylee, sure. It might very well just all line up. I took payments today. I applied everything in full. I didn't reapply any old money. Yay. Everything's going to match 1 for 1 on that day. But in a less than perfect day, the way the building works, I'm going to adjust some permit fees because of evaluation change. And you're going to receive some negative transactions in your applied batch. And then you're going to receive the net reapplied, assuming I did a good job reapplying the money. Wink, wink. And yes, you would potentially see things net out. And then I'm going to take another payment on another day for maybe the remaining balance that remained unpaid. Right? And so keeping track of when the money is reportable at the applied transaction level versus payments that are posted and are potentially not fully applied, say in an case of an overpayment, like my fake check at Krista's, or they paid the fees with the check today, everything was applied 100% 1 for 1, and then 3 days from now they withdraw their permit and we're going to refund. So we void all the fees to credit in preparation for a refund to release the money, to make it available to be cashed out. And you're going to see negative transactions against those account codes where the fees were voided. So to fully reconcile, I can't even express how important it is to understand the concept that SELA separates payment data from fee data. And you have to look at both sides, just like you underscored, Laylee. You have to look at both sides to see things balance. I have to look at what was posted and then how it was applied, or using this particular report to kind of see both sides together in a single report. But I still have to care about this. Krista thought there might be another question. Oh, smiley face. Yay. I like smiley faces. Okay. Refunds. We're way over. I'm in Marion County. Gosh,
Yeah,
gotta
don't
be
do-
careful. Don't want to break things in Marion County. In my record I created here, I have one fee. Let me see. I have 2 fees that are still invoiced and unpaid. Everything else is credited. I'm just going to make a payment so I can just briefly talk about the high level pieces of refunds. So I just took a cash payment, for the remainder there, just so I can show this record fully paid. And then they come back in tomorrow and they withdraw. For whatever reason, they're not going to do this addition. Turns out they have a family emergency. They don't have the money to pay for it. They're not going to do it. And so they request a refund. Refunds always start with the fees. They have to start on the fee side. I can sort the fees by the invoice paid items. I don't care about stuff that was already voided to credit and, out of the mix. I care about the stuff that was invoiced and paid. So now I have to first check these and void them to credit to release the money. Refund has been requested. That's why I'm voiding these fees. I've now released the money. So I go to the payment tab. I have a full unapplied credit. So now I have to think about some things. One, does your agency charge a refund processing fee? Some of you did adopt a new refund processing fee. If you do, before I do anything else, I go to fees and I add the refund processing fee. It lives in the point of sale schedule. I'm adding one refund processing fee. There it is. It's 25 bucks. Before I do anything else, I'm going to collect this. So I'm going to invoice it, go to back to my payment, use some of my unapplied credits to pay us, our agency, back 25 bucks. So first I'm going to do that. I'm going to pay ourselves 25 bucks. So now that leaves this much. That's now what's left to be refunded, not the full payment amount because we retained $25. Second consideration or question to ask yourself in a refund is, was any work done that we need to retain money for? Okay, maybe. Let me first say I was a little premature. Before you void the plan review to credit, before you decide to void it to credit to release the money for potential refund, if you already did the plan review, don't void the plan review fees to credit. Leave them in good standing, leave them invoiced and fully paid. Leave them. You're going to retain it. You already did the work. Let's say in this case, though, they just applied. We never even started a plan review. After the refund processing fee, maybe our policy is we do a full refund. After we retain our $25 refund processing fee, we give back the remainder. After I've transacted the refund processing fee and repaid us that 25 bucks, I will now generate a refund for the remainder. It takes you to this screen of fee list to say, hey, before you refund, is everything on the record paid that is still in a good standing? You look at the outstanding column, you want to make sure there's nothing in this screen that shows a balance. Because if it does, don't give back a refund until you decide whether that fee is still due and payable or not. If it's not payable, go void it. You know, if you missed it, you should have voided it maybe, then go void it. So this is your are you sure screen before you refund. You want to make sure nothing has an outstanding balance. Now that I've checked and true nothing does, I submit right through this screen. The payment method for a refund is called refund check. It's a separate payment method so we can report on it distinctly for you. If you know the refund check number already, some agencies put in paperwork to their finance team first, and finance processes the refund and cuts the check, and then they record it in Acela. But I'm going to say to you, I think that is super backwards, and I think it's the long road, the long way. Processing it in Acela first will provide finance with all the document details they need in order to fund the refund check, to know where to take the money from. So having a reference number, a check number, I would say, if you're following our best practice on this process, you wouldn't know a check number yet. You wouldn't have even have sent it to finance yet. The paid to would be who you're refunding to, which payer. The reason, you know, customer requests a refund, other, you can put in a comment about other and so on. This is just for reference purposes. This is going to generate a refund payment for this much because I already retained the 25 bucks for the refund processing fee. So now I'm essentially cashing out $1,420.03 of unapplied money. I'm cashing it out of the system. It will generate a receipt. All this receipt says is there's no fee details. All it says is that you're cashing out $1,420.03. So I print this receipt because I need to give it to finance. And then I go back into the payment tab. Notice now the balance is zero and only my $25 of paid refund processing remains. My refund quote unquote payment is here in the transaction section. It shows how much, and then I cashed it out through a refund check. We're going to cut a check. Now I go back and I need to regenerate all of the prior payment receipts. And I do that because by regenerating the payment receipts, I can now see the fee detail and account code detail for every fee item that's being included in the refund, including the fact that I repaid us the 25. And I print that receipt out. I regenerate this payment receipt. It'll show all the voided fees here and their amounts and their account codes. I print that out. So I regenerate all of the other payment receipts that are party to the refund. And I staple all those documents together and I submit them to finance with a refund request. And that's because, one, the refund payment just shows that we cashed it out of the system. And the 3 other payment receipts that I regenerated that now, because a receipt's dynamic, we voided the fees that are attached to those receipts, and we've refunded the money that's attached to those receipts. So those 3 receipts now provide finance with all of the account code details they might need to generate or process the refund check. Yes. And Krista just reminded me, if you've done fee waivers, if you've paid parts of fees with fee waivers, you need to make sure and retain that fee waiver. It's not money. It's not real money. So when you void a fee that was paid, like with a waiver or a credit memo, if you void the fee that was paid with one of those non-cash exceptional fee or payment methods, the money that you paid is going to become a false credit. It's because unapplied, but it's not really money. So you have to be very cognizant if you're a person processing refunds, that if any exceptional payment methods were processed, you can see right here, that you retain that amount. Because that's not really money. You don't want to pay real money out to an applicant that you gave $100 discount to. You don't want to pay them $100 in cash because that wasn't really money. That was an exceptional payment method. So it is key that as you are processing refunds, that's why I said refunds can get really deep. There's a lot of moving parts related to refunds. Sometimes they're just slam dunk. Somebody paid, they withdrew the next day. Oops, I don't want that electrical permit. You withdraw the permit, you void all the fees to credit, you assess your refund processing fee to retain your $25, and you refund the rest. Done. But they're not all that clean. Some of them have exceptional payments that were formerly made that you need to retain because it's not real money. Some of them, you're retaining some money for work that was done. Let me go ahead and void my refund payment, and this will wrap up our training today. I'm just going to get rid of my refund. So I have my credit back. And so let's say that we actually did part of the permit. We did one inspection. So our refund policies, we're going to retain 20%. So I go to add fees. We have retention fees built into every fee schedule in the CELA. Defaults are 20, 50, and 75. These were based on policies we started to see globally across agencies. We can build another percentage if you need it, but just so you know. So in this case, I need to retain 20% of the permit fee. And on this record, I'm going to cancel out here. On this record, our permit fee was $816.40. I need to retain 20% of $816.40 because we did one inspection. By the way, there's a fee note right here. You can put in any sort of notes if that's helpful ever on anything. So what a retention fee does is it hangs on, I'm going to sort by status, is it hangs on to 20% of the amount I entered. And I should only enter the permit fee amount because it will calculate surcharge on my 20% remainder. So not only does it retain 20% of 816.40, which is 163.28, but then it also calculates 12% of 163.28. Because if you're going to retain permit fee, you can retain surcharge. And by the way, surcharge is refundable. It is. If any of you were formerly not refunding surcharge because you were like, wait, I'm not going to refund some fees paid in January or surcharge paid in January because we already paid the state back in January. We already paid the state. So if we refunded it, that means we're refunding out of our pocket. In Acela, we have accounted for all of that. So if you were not formally refunding surcharge, you will need to start refunding surcharge once you come onto the system. The surcharge report, what it will do is if I refund surcharge money today that was collected back in June, let's say, in the September surcharge report, because I'm doing the refund or the void of surcharge today. I'm refunding surcharge today, September 18th. In the September surcharge report, I will get a credit for the amount of surcharge that I refunded. So your agency will realize a credit against your current surcharge owing for the amount of any surcharge that you refunded in the same period. So if I refund $100 surcharge today and our monthly balance of surcharge was already for September was already $1,000, the surcharge report will give me $100 credit for the surcharge money I refunded today and will only owe the state $900. So surcharge is refundable. It is refundable commensurate to any permit fee that you refund. So if I refund $100, I need to refund $12 in surcharge, and so on and so on. If I retain any permit fee because we did one inspection, I can also retain the surcharge commensurate to the amount of permit fee I'm retaining. So if I am retaining money prior to processing the refund, I need to do the retention, invoice it, pay us for it using unapplied monies before I process the refund. I need to pay us for the 20% retention amount, and I need to pay us for the state surcharge on that, on that 20%. So now the refund, after all of that, after charging them $25 refund processing fee, after retaining 20% of the permit fee because we did one inspection, I now am only going to refund or cash out this much. If you're going to refund direct credit card because you are able to do so in Converge, are you guys able to process refunds direct to credit card through your other credit card systems?
Yes, you can through
Okay.
Express Bill Pay.
Okay. If you decide to do that, it's way cheaper than cutting a check. Internally, the cost around refunding to a credit card, if they paid with a credit card, is extremely cheap compared to having to cut a check, postage, envelope, staff time. Well, you still have a little staff time, right? But maybe a little less. So if you're funding direct to a credit card, so I might say full refund. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. This is my Are You Sure screen. Nothing is outstanding. I'm going to submit right through it. Instead of selecting refund check, I'll select credit card. Still select my payer. Still customer asks for a refund. Because this will show as a negative 1237.16 on nightly balancing reports. And you'll have to make sure, this is super important, because we had an agency recently turn in a ticket and they couldn't figure out why things didn't balance. They did this refund in Acela today, and they didn't go into Converge for 2 days later to do it in Converge. Now, it just didn't line up. The batch date in Converge didn't line up with the date they transacted the refund in Acela. So it took us a little bit of research and unwinding it to go, oh, I was like, well, look, you guys didn't process the refund till the 20th in Converge, but you processed it in Acela on the 18th. You need to do it on the same day, just to keep things netting out and balancing. So you can refund direct to credit card. Those are the only two choices for refund, direct to credit card or cutting a check. All right, guys, you have literally stayed an hour and 10 minutes over. I am so appreciative. Thank you for those that were able to stay. For those that couldn't, for agencies, we'll make this video recordings available, and you can share it with any of your folks that had to cut out on schedule at 11. Yes, Fairview.
Yeah, I don't, probably doesn't pertain to everybody else, but Fairview's intent is any fees that are generated through Acela will be paid through Acela, whether it's cash, check, credit card. So
Yeah.
will that make it different on some of those different reports that you were showing us?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. As long as you're assessing the fees and invoicing them as Acela and you're recording some type of payment, no.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for staying late. And I know I bumped into lunch hours. Appreciate it. We'll be sending some additional materials. Thank you.
Thank you.